Welcome everyone to the Overwatch World Cup online qualifiers APAC Group B. My name's Domino and I'm your host today, and I am joined by the fantastic Pixie and Avril. Welcome guys, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. This is the earliest I have ever done a broadcast in my life. It's 5 p.m. local time, which is insane to me. Usually we start at like 9 o'clock, so I am as alert as ever. It's fantastic.
Yeah, this guy's never done an NA or EU broadcast because, you know, then you'd be doing it in the early mornings, talking some 3 a.m.s here. Speaking of EU broadcast, we actually already had the EMEC region play, so I think we're now the second region overall APAC, you know, APAC, Europe, America, we're like the second region to broadcast. So yeah, World Cup 2023 back in full swing.
I know.
Online qualifiers are here. We get to finally get to see some World Cup action after several years.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting, right?
I was just about to say that. It's actually really exciting to have the World Cup back. And look, let's talk about the tournament structure and what we are looking at here for the World Cup. Now, we are today doing the online qualifiers, which we'll be going over this week and next week. So make sure you tune in again next week as well. And the top 2 teams from Group B here at APAC will go onto the group stage, where they will verse other teams to all battle it out for those World Cup finals. So this is very exciting to see this starting up now. And obviously, you know, let's take a look at all those teams that are playing for Group B. We have a total of 6 countries that will be representing here at the World Cup for the qualifiers. And look, we've got Australia there. I'm Australian. I'm going to be a little bit biased. They're probably my favorite here. But like, what about you guys? What are you looking from these teams here today?
I'm looking towards New Zealand, Australia, you know, honestly, Thailand, India as well. New Zealand, Australia, I would say probably largely the favorites here, especially Australia, given that they are the only team in this group that has a history of more extended World Cup proceedings where they've been to group stages before. You know, they made the top 8 before, they played at BlizzCon before. You have Punk on that team as well, who's an Overwatch League player, current Overwatch League player, and the rest of the roster mainly made up of a high-level contenders team from Contenders Australia as well. So, you know, it's the teams that have the most, I think, notable star power, which New Zealand has a few of those players as well. Carly Hex is a former Overwatch League player. And then India, who is, I think, a bit of a dark horse in this tournament because there's a couple of good NA players in that team, but they will be on high pink.
Yeah, it's always going to be a bit of a challenge to get past, right? And, I mean, for me, this is kind of taking me back, right? This feels like a bit of a blast from the past. Like I remember covering the Pacific region for, you know, however long, because obviously the APAC Group A is like, that's the heavy hitters, right? That's the regions that people know a lot about. That's where you've got China. That's where you've got South Korea. This is like everyone else. This is the Thailand, Australia, you know, Singapore. I mean, you just saw them on the screen, right? But that's so, it's interesting to kind of be back to that, because we talk about dark horses within this region, but like as a region, it's always been a bit of a dark horse, and every so often you just get absolute standout players. I mean, we all know about Australia making deep runs into the World Cup over and over again. You look back at Thailand bringing players like Apudo and Patapan to the fore. And also, I have a British citizenship. I've got no dog in this race, but I realized that of the 6 countries represented here, there is only one that Britain didn't at some point in history control, and that's Thailand. So I'm going to throw my lot in with them.
Fair enough. Look, I have to agree. We have some big heavy hitters, as you have mentioned, like Punk and Color Hex, but I think there's a lot of new players who we may not have seen a lot from, and I am interested to see how they're going to go in these matchups. And look, we might have some really surprising players shine over this weekend, which will be really interesting to see. So let's take a look at what we're going to be first watching today. So coming up on today's schedule, we're going to start with Singapore versus Malaysia, and then we've got New Zealand versus Thailand. So some bit of rivalries going on here, would you say?
Singapore, Malaysia for sure. I mean, that's just like a very close logistical regional rivalry. Singapore, Malaysia right next to each other on terms of if you look at the map. New Zealand and Thailand, I've heard some good things about this Thai roster, but also looking across the Thai roster, I'm sure we'll discover them a little bit later on as well. There's a bunch of contenders players. There's Apudo coming back as well. A bunch of the players are from Kraken Esports who actually just won Contenders APAC. So very, very good talent on Thailand. I think there could be a very close race between our top 4 teams in this region, with maybe Singapore, Malaysia lagging a little bit behind, but we'll give them a little bit of space here, especially in that first match, to really prove themselves and see how well they can play today.
And obviously we're going to dive into it more later, right? But that New Zealand Thailand, like as you just mentioned, Kevin, that's of particular interest to me, because I think we are all looking at Australia as like a bit of a shoe-in for one of those 2 slots. There is only 2 slots though, and New Zealand and Thailand both feel like they could be have quite a serious run at that. So that's where the scrum is really going to take place. The fact that these 2 teams are getting this one out of the way very early on is going to set one of them a real cut above in terms of their chance to actually make it through to those 2 available slots in the group stages.
Yeah, it might be a race for the second place. I think we all think that Australia is probably the likely favorite here. They'll get one of the top 2, and then personally for me, it's New Zealand, Thailand, India. One of those 3 could be taking the second slot.
Yeah, well, let's take a closer look at that Singapore team and their starting lineup for today. So as you can see, we have Vital, Vips, Ashkane, Paper, and Cup. Is there any standouts here we want to be paying attention to? I have heard of Vital myself. I've seen them being played in Overwatch contenders here in the Australia region. But yeah, I'll throw it over to you guys to talk more about this team.
Yeah, Singapore's had a very interesting journey into the World Cup this year. They've had a bit of a chop and change around the roster. Notably, I think the one big piece of the puzzle that's missing here for me is Soggy, who I think is the best player coming through from Singapore. He's not currently on the team. He just won Contenders Australia on a honeypot, but the Singapore roster has been changed a fair bit over the past few months, and the current Team Singapore roster is having to sort of come through with a bit less time, I think, to gel, and a bit less known talent, and that might impact their results. So they get a bit of I think, an easy introduction today versus Malaysia, which could probably still a very good game. But Singapore, the real test will come when they face the other teams, and that might be a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a look at that Malaysian lineup starting off here tonight as well. Any thoughts on these players?
Yeah, this is, shall we say this is a country that's had to dig a little bit deeper than some of the others in the pool here. If you're a real deep cut enthusiast, there might be some names here that stick out to you, Numenos being one there, but yeah, overall I think you can kind of say on paper you expect Singapore to come and be the better team just out of sheer roster strength. But this is a real test of things, and this is a nice early match for Malaysia, right? Because they're a little bit lesser known. You wouldn't want to have to go right up against a heavy hitter like Australia or even a New Zealand, Thailand, India type team here. This is probably the best option there is in the pool for them to iron out any remaining kinks, if there are any still in this team, just for that very first match. But this is also the kind of roster where we kind of see dark horse, diamond in the rough type players pop out from.
I'll speak to Malaysia a little bit here as well. Mostly made up of, I think, 3 players from Fire Society who did play in the most recent Contenders APAC as well for the Summer Series, and they went out, I'd say, fairly quickly, like a 5th, 6th position out of 8 teams, so a little bit left to be desired there, and half the team roughly did make it onto this roster. A lot of unknown factors here as well, kind of similar to Singapore, where you have a few known players and a lot of unknown players. Yeah, this is going to be one of those teams where, with the fact that there are a less well-known players on the competitive side, they'll probably struggle more late into the tournament, but both will get a little bit of a softball right up front versus each other instead.
Yeah, and as you've mentioned, they're versing each other. I do just want to call out, because I don't think I mentioned it earlier for everyone, that the tournament structure, it is a round robin, so every team will be versing off each other, and it will be the first 2-2 of the maps here tonight. So that will be quite interesting. And let's take a look at the map pool, or going over to the map selection. So we will be starting off with Ilios, which is a control map. And Pixie and I were talking about Ilios before we started, and Well is probably one of my most hated maps to play on the game, but that's where we're going to start here this evening.
Yeah, I personally don't hate any maps. I'm insane. I actually enjoyed Assault. Bring it back. But yeah, pretty standard loser pick style format, and as you say, first to 2. The second one can actually be picked from either Escort or Hybrid. Excuse me. So the only way we go beyond a 3 here is if we end up going to Hybrid, and then we have a draw, and then we have a split map 3. So as in Group A wins, Team A wins map 1, then we have a tie, and then Team B wins map 2. That's the only way we go all that way deep into that 4th map. I kind of hope we actually get to see a few game falls across this, because that always speaks to a certain level of closeness.
I mean,
Well,
the map 2 choice is going to be really important here because there's 6 maps in the pool that you can possibly choose from. A couple that we haven't had in this year's competitive circuit, whether that's been in Contenders or the Overwatch League. So Circuit Royale, Watchpoint Gibraltar in particular, which has had a change recently on the live patch. And yes, we are playing the live patch today. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting shakeup. Beyond that, though, I mean, there's only 3 maps in the control pool. Typically in competitive circuits, there's 5, so there's a little bit less variety there. That is also going to be, I believe, the tiebreaker map if we go to a map 4. Push has always been fairly... I mean, there's only 3 maps there anyway, and all 3 are reasonably close in terms of what they bring to the table. So it ends up being that map 2, in my opinion, is the most heavily weighted map of the entire pool, regardless of what choice you choose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. I'm hoping we'll see some very close matches and we will go into further games, because if we don't, we won't get to see a lot of those push maps. And obviously that's the latest game mode that has come out. So I'm sure we would like to see some of those matchups there for push. But we will head in to our first map. I believe the teams are almost ready there. Oh, actually, I've just been informed we're going to head off to an ad break and give those teams a little bit more time to set up and get ready. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You asked, we listened. The McFeast is back in all its beefy, salady, saucy glory. Value means more at Macca's, so grab a McFeast lunch deal now for only $5.95.
And we're back, and hopefully with all our players in the lobby ready to go now. While we're waiting for them to make sure they're all ready and set up, we were looking over some of the upcoming matches we are going to get to experience this weekend and next weekend. Any specific matches you guys are looking forward to?
New Zealand, Australia, Trans-Tasman rivalry on day 6, the final day. So we're going to have to wait all the way to the end to actually get to that one. But I think that would be the highlight of the week, or the 2 weeks that we have here for sure. But I think any of the games where, you know, Australia versus Thailand tomorrow should be very interesting. I'm already expecting that New Zealand-Thailand today should be pretty explosive. But I think this Thai roster has a lot to prove. And with only 2 available teams to go through, I think your scoreline needs to be pretty good here as well, because there's a possibility that a team does go 5-0, but if they fail that, I think the minimum viable score is probably going to be at least 3 wins to 2 losses with some tiebreakers in there. 4 wins, you'd start to feel really safe, but anything below that, I think if you only manage 2 wins here, you're basically out. So very competitive bracket for sure, especially when I think there's at minimum maybe 4 competitive teams.
Yeah, and you're seeing well, the Thailand roster there. It's the return of the prodigal son, Apudo, and some of you fans may remember Rodtung as well. You know, there's some questions, I guess, around Apudo, whether or not he's still got it, and also shifting over to the support role. He has mostly been known as a DPS player in the past, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of dynamic that brings. But obviously in that support position, what he can bring is a wealth of experience and potential shot calling, and that can really elevate the rest of your team. That's maybe a bit of a hidden gem in that Thai roster beyond just the player's skill directly. So Thailand in general, sort of to kind of piggyback off the point about Australia, really Thailand versus any team to me is quite interesting because, I mean, they're like the biggest swing factor team here. I feel like they could absolutely bottom out during this tournament and go nowhere at all, or they could absolutely soar up, take that 2nd spot, even tickle Australia for a win. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Thailand is mostly comprised of Team Kraken members, Kraken Esports, and again, they won the most recent contenders season in some series in APAC, so I mean, there's a lot of talent there. High Vision is super strong. I mean, one of the best players that didn't end up on this roster is Yoshinori Toucan. That's because he's underage, so they actually missed out on like kind of the current top player in Thailand just on age alone, but the rest of the players, especially, you know, Apudo can swap between both DPS and support. We've seen that. He'll probably only play the support this time around, but Ace and High Vision are very good.
Yeah, switching over to New Zealand, if we take a look at their roster, they have some obviously very key players here. I'm sure many people have heard of Color Hex, used to play in the Overwatch League, probably one of our biggest imports over there. Quite a lineup here as well. You've got Pa, JCap, Finn and August, who have all been playing in contenders. These are some really strong contenders here from the New Zealand team as well.
I'll start on this roster by saying that JCap is coming in as definitely the best tank in New Zealand at the moment. I think this was a guarantee on this roster next to Color Hex, but Color Hex, importantly, is doing a little bit of a role swap here. And what I mean by that is he won the most recent contender season on Honeypot and Contenders Australia on support. So he actually role swapped from DPS and then at one point to tank to play in the, I believe, Summer Series last year, which was or B-sides last year maybe, and that was a complete Jungle Queen meta. And then most recently this year he rolls up to support, and now he's going to go back to DPS just for the World Cup. He'll likely still be on support for the upcoming APAC East Owl Open, so he'll be sort of jumping back and forth between support and DPS depending on which event he plays in. I think that might impact his performance and practice level a little bit. Pa didn't play in the most recent contender season, so there's some question marks there, but did look pretty reasonable in the past seasons. And August is currently top 2 as well in Contenders Australia, so he's on form.
I feel like Color Hex just needed to show that he could play all the roles, because we've always seen him as a DPS player. I feel like he needed to come out and be like, no, I can do them all. Just watch.
He's won contenders on all 3 now officially, so he's done that.
That's the triple crown, right?
Definitely. So while we're still just waiting for everyone to get all cozied on up in that lobby and ready, are there any other teams or any other players we would like to talk about for these Group B stage?
Pummy, Iron Man, and Akash from India, I think, are the notable players on that team. I think a lot of the NA fans will sort of be able to recognize, especially Pummy from Trick Room, who did really well in the Pro-Am earlier this year. So, you know, that is going to be an interesting look, and that's why I think India could be a potential dark horse, but this team is most likely going to end up playing on ping, so there's some question marks there.
And it looks like we are getting ready to go into the map now as we head on over to beautiful Ilios in Greece. I'm going to leave you guys with Avril and Pixie, who will take you through this match. Go with it, boys.
It's good to be back as well. It's scenic. It's frankly gorgeous. If this were a real holiday destination, I wouldn't be able to afford it.
That's true.
Yeah.
You just need to work 21 hours instead of 20 hours.
I need to work 21,
It would
yeah.
help you a lot.
Really would just
journey
elevate. Yeah, my bootstraps aren't long
afford it.
enough as it currently stands.
I also wasn't sure when you said it's good to be back. I don't know, you mean in general, back on Ilios?
I meant back out of
Back
jail.
on Lighthouse.
Back in civilian society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right, because you're not in that jail
I'm
cell
not in,
anymore.
I know,
That's
I'm
true.
no longer, yeah.
That's actually completely true. Well, let's roll straight out. Let's roll straight out onto the game. And going to be seeing a, I think, very standard Lucia Morage Ramatra coming through from Singapore. Slightly less standard Jungle Queen composition. Does have the Cassidy in play. That's going to be interesting. Cassidy is a little bit different on this particular patch.
Well, he's a little
straight
bit,
away.
yeah.
It's going to make the difference.
I was going to say a little bit dead on this patch, getting walled in on the point there and just not able to slip his way back to safety in the same way that Numenaz was. That gives Singapore a bit of an early advantage on the point.
Let's see if Malaysia makes any sort of changes here. I think the Reaper's a little bit more congruent with where the current meta is. The Sombra is going to give you a little bit of that extra dive factor as well. Yeah, Jungle Queen did get nerfed on this patch, so maybe a little bit more difficult to play. You have to imagine that Singapore should do well with the Ramatra, but Ash Kane in a little bit of trouble early on.
Yeah, really feeling the heat from that Reaper. Had to back out of the point. They're still able to follow it up. J003 getting around the side to collect that tank kill, and now Singapore a little bit headless, getting the kill return on the Reaper. Does keep them in the fight, but with the point belonging to Malaysia and the extra kills coming through, that's going to nicely even out percentages for them and let them pull ahead, actually.
Yeah, we haven't seen a single ultimate come through yet. Numenaz currently closest on 90% plus. Also have the EMP coming on from J003, and for Malaysia, nice quick comeback after changing a single piece of that comp. So, looking forward to the next fight being mostly a coalescence trade, and I'd like to see if J003 can get a bit of a setup here, because you can cancel that call with the EMP, and that would be pretty bad for Paver.
Certainly an opportunity represented. He might want to save it for a sound barrier, but doesn't really matter. Just wants to pop it in straight away, not looking to cancel. They just get an early kill onto Ash Kane. Makes this a pretty lean fight in terms of ultimate usage for Malaysia here. Finding Vips as well. Forced retreat from Singapore. Starting to pull comfortably ahead on percentage and on ultimates now.
A cheap way to get through that fight as well. Just EMP alone. Ends up coming through. Destroys Ash Kane. No response from Singapore. Way too quick on that kill into Ash Kane, so not really much that Singapore could do. Malaysia now running very far ahead, 60 to 16%. Still plenty to play through here as well. Double support opens online for both teams.
It's going to be
Ash Kane waiting for the annihilation.
Oh, Cup going down early. That means no sound barrier for Singapore. Malaysia have that advantage and they lean on it. They haven't actually collected any other kills just yet. Vip's getting low, but able to pop the blizzard and go cold about it. Fantasy down and Game Pro dude. That's a 2-for-1 trade for Singapore. And that's an important point to capture now. Rounding the bend of 85%. Singapore looking to clear off the last few members here. Numenaz looking to go down. Gemini either going to get out or die. And it's going to be the latter. 90% to Malaysia, but Singapore back in control.
A little bit of extra staggering in there. J003 looking for a little bit more extra charge. Malaysia will get up towards 90. So anything within 90 after what, there's like 3 fights now, 2 fight wins realistically, 2 fight losses for Malaysia. Looking like pretty decent distance. Singapore did have to really spend for this, and for Malaysia, you can cycle straight back into EMP here. Cup is the only factor to consider, the only thing that can really hold up. And the EMP does come through.
Yeah, gonna have to time that right with that sound barrier. It's actually going to be Game Pro going in first. That's already a quick pickup. 2 members of Singapore eating the dust there. The sound barrier not enough to rescue them. Death Blossom out from Vital, not pulling enough weight, unfortunately. And it's going to be Malaysia getting the point back under their control. 90% already. Singapore, they might try and stall this one out, but they're not going to get a proper fight in.
Well, they can get a couple members on there because it is only 10% away. If Singapore move quickly, they can just...
Vital?
Ash King got hacked, though. That could be a bit of a problem, and isn't currently able to roll on top of the point.
Yeah, Vital barely got the touch on there with the Wraith form and immediately pays for it with his life. The rest of Singapore trying to muster up the manpower to get to the point, but Ash Kane already low as he gets on. Hacked again, gonna go down. Vips is there with him with Paper at his back, but Paper looking to get cut off behind him with these DPSs getting deep onto the support line. Cup under a similar amount of pressure. It's gonna be Vips down. Now Cup dusted off and Paper soon to follow. And that'll be Malaysia picking up the first point of control.
And you see the EMP differences that are coming through. I think both EMP fights were huge for Malaysia, especially the final one there. Already had 90% EMP on point. 2 died before the sound barrier came on through. So for Gemini, unfortunately, not going to be quick enough to be able to save too many people there. To be fair, the damage output from Malaysia was intense enough that double DPSs went down. And from that, Fantasy, the extra rampage, have to be considered not falling off the map, but the extra ISIL actually blocks him enough that he only needed to catch Ash Kane or a couple members, and with that down, 10% to cap. Singapore, not a great composition to touch. They're not playing a dive. Swap it over to the ball, instantly hacked. Vital dying as soon as Wraithform is over for the touch. Gonna be a difficult round. Good start for Singapore in terms of opening neutral, but they couldn't hold on afterwards.
We'll have to see how well they pull it off this time. Vital starting off on the Reaper this time. And just taking their time.
Info dude as well. So that's a much better choice again. Notably, start on the Cassidy for the neutral last time. Not particularly the right choice, given you're not countering any dive there. Also, different rollout strategies here. Singapore going and prioritizing the Mega Pack, trying to take the one away from J003.
Yeah, we're sort of hanging around their backside, tried to go for a manual hack on Vital, who did get low, but they weren't able to confirm, and then Malaysia just sort of a little bit pins it in. Singapore looking pretty comfortable now. Collecting another, and this should be the first point going their way as well. So once again, performing nicely in the neutral fight.
I'm a little surprised that, Malaysia didn't opt for the coast side rollout as well. I mean, fighting for the Mega Pack should be very important given that you are running a Sombra and late to the party there. On one Singapore is set up. Some decent long-range burst damage, some poke in general is going to make it very hard for the Queen Fantasy to do too much about it. Already isolated, Fantasy going to go down here.
Yeah, that's already a devastating start here. So Singapore looking to convert another one. It's Malaysia in full retreat, losing a couple on the way out. Game Pro Duke going to go down. Gemini and Numenals look like they've made it to safety, and J003 actually switching off the Sombra now, not getting the mileage out of it.
I think May is really important for some of these neutral battles. The Sombra is also fine, but they're really far behind now, and J003 didn't really have enough ult charge. You needed a little bit quicker charge on the EMP, and you remember Lighthouse, he basically had the EMP by that second fight. This time, not so much. Coalescence is though available.
Yeah, Vital was super low there. That coalescence was, necessary, but I think it was also partially pulled out just because Vital was so low. First little ticket that was used to top him off, but that has meant Singapore are able to hold Malaysia quite far forward. That being said, no casualties means Malaysia have an opportunity to bounce back in now. Vital going in. Oh, and follows it up very quickly. That's the back line done right as Malaysia were trying to find a fight of their own.
Just to further clean up through here, Vital, brilliant number of kills coming through. Coalescence, Dragon Strike, 2 ultimates for, I believe it was a 1 traded, but effective enough that Singapore can definitely get the 90 here. They can secure the next fight as well. Malaysia are running out of options. They don't have a lot to play in through. The Rampage can be easily countered by the sound barrier as well. Really how going to have to depend on, I was going to say, someone like Game Pro to find that backline Death Blossom with him down as well. Malaysia, can they even afford to quickly reset?
Yeah, getting really aggressive there is Ash Kane, but honestly, he's got the ultimate to back it up in that Nemesis form. He might as well. Fantasy's already down, just taking the fight, forcing the issue. The rest of the team was happy to bounce past that May wall from J003. Didn't slow Singapore down at all. 100-0 to tie up the map.
Yeah, really quick. Really profoundly one-sided as well. Now you have what was looking like a little bit more of a struggling Singapore in round 1, coming through much stronger round 2. I think, again, a better rollout. Had they comp figured out, it's once again Malaysia that has to juggle their composition a little bit more. What are we trying to play here? What do we really want to do here? And this is also a situation where, I don't know, I think you can run the May, but I didn't mind the Sombra either, especially for these control maps. They're going to go back over towards the May. They're really interested in fighting for that early May wall battle. You actually see and thinking a lot of now live patch comps. If you're running the Lucio Mora, you even just forego the May in general for something like a Sojourn, a little bit more active on the map. Vital staying on the Hanzo for this map though.
And I don't blame him. Worked an absolute charm for Singapore on the last map, though Ruins is a bit of a different beast for snipers. Malaysia getting the health pack room early though. And they've got the May there to potentially lock Singapore either in or out of it, depending on how things proceed. And there we go, trying to get the guy slayed onto Ash Kane. The rest of the team, though, following around to back him up. Haven't been able to get the damage onto Ash Kane. Numenals getting a little bit low. Malaysia pulled back to the health pack. Singapore, though, wrapping around. They actually want to start getting boots on the point. No casualties just yet.
On a save, JW3, but he's just caught. Can't quite make it through in the gap in the wall. It's only the 5v4 as soon as the cap opens. I mean, Malaysia will steal away from the cap, but not for long.
Yeah, Game Pro Dude going down, Fantasy looking to follow, and that's going to be Singapore, as you say, stealing that point straight back off Malaysia.
Now early ultimates online for Singapore going to next round here. Typically, you expect the two Moros to be fairly even. JW3 again just on the hero roulette at the moment. Now it's Genji's turn to come through. If you're going to play a projectile, you need to be going towards an Echo instead. Genji doesn't make a lot of sense, unfortunately. Malaysia are going to be probably finding it quite hard to buy themselves back into this fight once Singapore start rotating ultimates.
Whew, trying to get an isolate again onto Ash Kane. Does not work out. You're not locked in here with me. Oh, other way around, you know how the saying goes. At any rate, that's a 3 for none. Well, 3 for 1 just now for Singapore. So again, pulling ahead very comfortably, starting to look a little bit more like Ruins than Lighthouse.
This doesn't really end for Singapore, as again, we'll be rotating to more ultimates. Malaysia still lagging behind. Everything that they can use. Plenty for Singapore to counter with. The only thing that Malaysia has as a buffer is that extra 15%, which did actually buy them a little bit because Singapore will be over 60 by now. That's not a bad catch on the Rampage, but yeah, by the sound barrier.
Going straight in for it with the Coalescence at the back. Now sound barrier to follow up. Malaysia actually looking okay here. Ash Kane still to pop his ultimate. Does just go for it now, and immediate conversion, picking up both DPSs. Malaysia worse for wear once again. Singapore, they had to dig a little bit deeper. Even then, they still win the fight, and they can rotate through to some new ultimates again.
So this is Malaysia's opportunity now. They're finally coming on board for some important ultimates. Dragon Blade, I don't think will really count for too much here. A lot of mobility on Singapore. Vital should be the target. If you are JW3, you can find Vital. That would be immensely important. How do you walk on top of the point? You're still playing the jungle queen. You still don't have shielding. You're still going to eat a lot of poke damage. Dragon Strike's instantly going to go through main. Most of the players have dodged that.
Yeah, they're already around the side. The Vortex not slowing enough members in, and JW3 has found Vital with that blade. Trying to get on top of Ash Kane, not your ideal target there, so that's a 1 for 1 of the DPSs, but with Vips down in paper as well. Malaysia really leveraging this one for all it's worth into the overtime now, but they've collected up enough members. Cup to go down means Malaysia, they get another shot. They've got the point back under their control. Not quite going to be as one-sided as Ruins.
Well rotated by Malaysia to be able to work their way around the Dragon Strike, and as I mentioned, the one key target for JW3 needed to be Vital. Gets that, and it's realistically the only person that you need to get at a minimum, I would say. Beyond that, it's a bonus. The rest of Malaysia will be able to clean up and, importantly, not having to use the Death Blossom as well, so they'll need that to be able to try and snowball this one further forward. And again, because they had that opening 15%, at least a little bit more to work through.
Vortex and wall down first. We've got the Coalescence running paper, really in trouble. Cup ends up being the first to go down as Malaysia. Nice conversion off the Death Blossom, softened the members up, forced them to scatter out, and they weren't in line of sight of their healers. Paper so low there. Malaysia keeping control of the point for now.
Rotating into Rampage and Coalescence, starting to look a little bit better for Malaysia. This could get more competitive. Given that the Rampage hits nicely, there's still a lack of a sound barrier in Singapore. They've unfortunately been cleaned up efficiently enough in the last couple of fights that they haven't been able to build up too much. If they could just get past this Rampage, Fantasy could overcommit on this as well.
All right, walling out
by the wall.
Yeah, no, first little bit of that Coalescence. The Rampage, though, still able to connect through. Game Pro Dude down, though. Ash Kane starting to pop in with the ultimate. Vital there at his back as well. Some quick follow-ups. A little bit even on percentage, but Malaysia not even in terms of members. Few more getting dusted off at the end by the Ramatra, and that's going to be Singapore back in control. 99% Malaysia will try and stagger onto the point, but Singapore playing gatekeeper. It doesn't look like Malaysia are going to get boots on it, so Singapore walk away with Ilios.
I mean, what a well-placed wall by Veps, just blocking off the majority of Malaysia from walking on in. I thought maybe Fantasy had his ultimate blocked as well, but he ended up going further forward, but that ends up being the overcommitment right as well, because we know for the Rampage, you could go a little bit too deep. Hits, I think, a couple of members, 3 members possibly on that Rampage. One of them is attack. Ash Kane can easily just go straight to Nemesis, then into Annihilation, blocks all it out with the with the armor. And yeah, well done. Singapore clutch it through.
What an amazing first match to start us off this evening. Singapore coming out there so strong with Ash Kane just pushing them right off the point, winning that first match. And then Malaysia actually taking the first map, though. Great effort by both teams there. Any other feedback from you guys in relation to that one, or?
That was interesting.
It's an interesting start.
Yeah, close enough that I don't think this is going to be an easy breezy 2-0 personally, especially with Malaysia getting to pick map 2 now, can maybe take it to slightly more comfortable territory, because it seemed like there was quite a big variance between when they were like sat on the point, in control of it, and could kind of control the pace of the game a little bit. We saw that especially on Lighthouse in that first one. Once they got control, they didn't give it up, which is impressive. So getting to go to a comfortable map, I think, will play in their favor, and we could end up getting a little bit deeper into the series than just a 2-0.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what map they are going to choose and whether they're going to choose something with a high ground and really good sightlines, because we just saw Vital there playing Hanzo and really utilizing the high space there on Runes to get some amazing picks in. So I'll be interested to see what map they do pick and whether that plays more to their favor or it's something that Singapore's also very comfortable on.
For sure. I'll see what other comps they can bring to the table as well, because we've mostly had Ramatra coming through versus Queen. We've got a lot of high ground, a lot of dive heavy maps in the future, so map 2 is going to be important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, while we wait for Malaysia to choose their map, we're going to cut to a short break, but we'll be back very soon, everyone. Don't go anywhere.
You asked, we listened. The McFeast is back in all its beefy, salady, saucy glory. Value means more at Macca's, so grab a McFeast lunch deal now for only $5.95.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Overwatch World Cup Group B for APAC. And we've had our first map played out, and Singapore has started with taking a win there against Malaysia. How do we think that those first couple of games went, guys?
A couple of quick ones in there. 100-0 on, I think it was the Lighthouse map.
Ruins.
And
Ruins.
Sorry. Yeah, Lighthouse a little bit more back and forth. The Ruins really one-sided. But beyond that, I mean, I think once we got to see Malaysia a little bit more, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that they are chopping and changing the comp quite a decent amount. Not a fan of the Genji in this particular patch. I think the Queen as well is an interesting choice at the moment. You know, realistically speaking, I think we favor the Ramacha comps over the Queen comps in the head-to-head. Queen's in, well, she's still stronger than she was before, but she is nerfed on this specific patch compared to the one that we just came from beforehand. And in a pure mirror for the Lucio Moira, I think I just give that to the Ramacha team most times.
Well, certainly the map result agrees with you, right? 2-1 to Singapore, but that one is important. The fact that it wasn't a lockout, even with that 100-0 in the middle there, I think is quite telling and quite important. We sort of butted this one up as having, you know, a little bit more stakes to it in that national context between these two countries. So it's kind of nice to see that there is a bit of potential for this to go a little bit further. It's certainly not locked away and decided. We were talking about there potentially being a bit of an on-paper disparity between these two rosters, but in practice, Malaysia certainly bringing their A game here, and it is measuring up. We'll have to see if it continues to do so, though.
I don't even think there's any real disparity between the rosters. I think they're both, you know, equivalent in the fact that you have a couple of known faces-ish on these teams, and then a lot of new faces that we're not quite sure about. Compared to some of the other four teams that I've been talking about here, who have, I think, a lot more known faces. So this should be one of the more even matchups that we have early on, and I think the 2-1 scoreline on that first map kind of illustrates that.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously with Malaysia losing out that map, they do get to pick the next map, and hopefully this will work in their favor. So we're going now to see that Malaysia has picked Circuit Royale, so a escort map there. What do we expect to see here on this map?
We don't expect to see a draw.
This is a very, I think, sniper-focused map. Now, Widowmaker had a really huge change here, so we did see a little bit of Widowmaker gameplay on the EMEC broadcast a little bit earlier on. Hanzo will still obviously be quite good here. I am curious to see if Widowmaker is going to be a choice of the teams, given that there is a little bit shorter range. It'll force her into a little bit closer combat. Yeah, this will be an interesting test for our hit scan players. I still think, given the map design and the geometry, it still should be very poke favored, and we'll see what happens on the tank side as well. I don't know if we'll really get to see Sigma come back, but likely some more Ramacha gameplay at the minimum.
And that's kind of interesting as well on the Malaysia side of things, right? Because as you noted, they've been opting to run Junker Queen. One assumes that they can play Ramacha and that that's still a possibility for Fantasy, but I mean, if you're not as comfortable on it and you'd rather play another tank and we're just going to get Ramacha again out of Singapore, then we're kind of in exactly the same boat we were talking about just a minute ago. So this will be a bit of a tell on the Malaysia side of things of what their tank lineup can actually do.
Now let's head on over to Circuit Royale, and very quickly before we do that, let's give an awesome shout out to McDonald's. Can't keep a legend out of the lineup. The McFeast is back. Grab one now, and let's give it over to Pixie and Avril.
I really would like to go grab one now, but I have to talk about this game first. I'm gonna get hungry at the end of this show.
It's been so long that we've been here. It's now daytime in Circuit Royale.
Yeah.
It was nighttime. It's now daytime. We can see the snipers now.
They're still racing.
They haven't finished racing. It's 24 hours of Le Monte Carlo.
Can you imagine if they actually had to do that, if they had to do Monaco for 24 hours rather than like the hour and a half, hour 45 it works out at?
Yeah, the number of drivers on the team would have to increase by a decent amount.
By quite a lot, yeah.
That's first.
Yeah. But it's like a bit of a snooze fest, you know? An hour and a half is about all I can bear of it. Hopefully this isn't a snooze fest, though.
So we have, I believe, a bit of a change up on the rosters. Ashkane is off. Xenofly is
My boy
on.
Xenofly is in. Let's go.
Xenofly coming in to play the off tanks, and we are going to see Sigma. So I kind of tease the fact that In the past, this was a Sigma favored map. We're going to see that again. Double Hanzo's being highlighted here. Singapore defending first. I'm going to go for the Sojin look, and you know, we've had this kind of three-way rotation. Sojin, Hanzo, Widowmaker. You pick 2 out of those 3. Supports. Bap Zen has been pretty standard. Double flex support. There has been some cases we play the Brig Bap instead. None of the teams are going to go for that.
The thing in my eye is on is the fact that this was Malaysia's map pick, so one assumes that they're comfortable. Xenofly taking some heat. That's already the immortality field down, but unfortunately, J003 getting sniped out by Vips means there isn't the same amount of DPS pressure. I think they might have even been able to dust off Xenofly if there had been. So a little bit of a slowdown for Malaysia while they wait for him to come back.
Just chilling until the plays return. Again, it'll be interesting to see what kind of distances JW3 can really play. I think this initial lane is going to be fine. Will suffice. Vip's taking a little bit of punishment from Fantasy from above. No one really close to ultimates here. You'd like to see the bat plays a little bit further up. Gemini X is really far behind.
Oh, there it is. Forced Vips back out into the open where J003 is able to collect the body shot. That should open things up. Takes a lot of sniper pressure off. Now, Immortality Field expired as well and immediately converts one onto paper. Now Vital looking to go down. And this is what Malaysia were fishing for. Just pressuring forward with Fantasy until they could isolate somebody. I think they were initially hoping for Xenofly, but you'll take Vips instead.
Should be a retake opportunity here. Plenty of players that survived that despite the players going down to J003, and now on a recontest, Xenofly walks up. Has been scouted by the Sonic, but that's fine. And Cup will be the first one to find ultimate on the board. High ground window. Is there enough players in the sight lines? Doesn't really look like it.
Yeah, they've just kind of vanished, all hiding in the nearby shops. And I mean, who can blame them? There's a lot of high quality produce there. It's more sort of upmarket fashion, I guess. First Flux going to come down, and it's Vips mostly caught in the Immortality Field. Vital's going to go down, though, around the side now. Xenofly caught in the Dragon Strike. It's Malaysia cleanly dusting off the rest. Very nicely done.
And they only sort of slow down so far. It's the very early beginnings when they were pushing. They lose J003, and on that, they've been pushing through very steadily. Despite the fact that Cup had the earlier amplification matrix, Gemini still trailing behind, which is a little bit odd. You don't expect that the Zen player would be able to get the first ultimate. Typically, it is a bad play getting the first ultimate. Fantasy having that extra flux coming through is going to be plenty. When a Xenofly deploy, you need to really prevent, I think, the payload from reaching the top of the ramp if possible.
Goes for it now. Gemini's actually just popped the window down. That didn't really catch a whole lot of Malaysia.
I think he lost the ultimate.
I think maybe he got, must have got cancelled there. At any rate, no Immortality Field available anymore, but still a nice catch on the GamePro dude. Singapore finding a bit of an advantage here anyway. Numenors having to pop. Transcendence, they're still pressuring forward. They might as well, even though they're one man down. Now J003 gonna pop Visor and for sight rather, and doesn't deliver a whole lot here, but they've got their Hanzo back in the mix now. Vip's thrown out his Dragon Strike. Speaking of Hanzo's Fantasy in the Immortality Field, getting healed up comfortably. It's just pressuring back and forth. Numenors is the one to go, and that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back here for Malaysia. Starting to get pressured back in earnest now.
They got to choose to back out of that one. So now we're going to see the Flux versus and Metrics exchange in the next fight. Cup might use this one early, and that will be a precedent for NSC to pull the trigger as well. So Paul got to push a little far up here. Have to be concerned about those angles. Another early pick from Singapore. It's just more slowdown in Malaysia.
That's really unfortunate, and Paper being the one to collect that. I mean, obviously, Vip's doing the bulk of the damage on it, but either way, it's time bleeding off the clock here. Came in with about 4 minutes 40, if I'm not mistaken, or 3 minutes 40, so already losing a chunk, and now even more as J003 loses the sniper battle.
Yep. 3 picks in a row. 3 individual kills. Each one will cost you 10 seconds. Malaysia losing opportunity to build ground here as the payload slowly slips backwards. More ultimates about to come online for Singapore as well, so Malaysia... opportunity closes. That's 4 picks in a row.
Vital really feeling himself, and I mean, they're just going to go for it anyway. They don't want to lose the window too much. Going to be Immortality Field down to rescue Xenofly as he lands in. Took them a minute to get rid of it, though, and Vital is on a tear. Now that's 3 in a row over the course of this fight. That's a bit of a shame. Fantasy's Flux not really coming so much. They find a kill off Vital. Trying to stay in, trying to scrap it out a little bit. J003 is going to come back on a Tracer to re-enter the fight as quickly as possible. GamePro dude with that Dragon Strike may still try to look for something while Vital's still not here. Coming back on his own Tracer. tracer will be Vital. Cup holding on to the window. Gemini's got one of his own. Who's going to deploy first? JW3 goes down. Xenofly's been getting pressured back, but hasn't gone down. Vips finally picked. It's such a messy back and forth, but it's just burning time for Malaysia, and now they finally lose the protracted engagement.
Xenofly doesn't manage to connect on the ultimate, but they'll win the fight regardless. Cup will be able to use the M Matrix perfectly, and like the last couple of kills, Vital doing so much on Widowmaker here. The Widowmakers are gone for now. JW3 has an opportunity to go back over towards the Widow if he would like to. Now fairly committed on the Tracers. A little hard for the Tracer on the attack. You know, you don't really favor the Tracer on the attack here at all.
Yeah.
At least on the defense, you can sort of just wait for Singapore to strike, play for the flank afterwards. Less than 1 minute to go now. What was a really quick attack on A is now a major slowdown on B.
Pretty even Stevens coming into this fight, though. Fantasy will have a flux well before Xenofly, assuming he doesn't go down. We'll have to see if they leverage that. It's been Dragon Strikes now either way. Numenos feeling a bit of heat from that one. Fantasy low as well in that Immortality field. Gonna have to get themselves topped off. Cup still holding on to his Immortality field for the time being. Has to deploy it now. It's gonna be Transcendence from Numenos. Trying to push forward, trying to find enough damage to get Fantasy's flux online, and here it is. Can they get something done with it? They are running out of time. 25 seconds on the clock. Pulse bomb for JW3, but a little bit worse for Ware. Needs to be careful about how he deploys it. Vital trying to get up on the back line. They're able to find Game Pro Dude. That Transcendence not delivering much. That Flux not delivering much either. Xenofly about to have his up. It's Numenos with Vital. Pulse bomb! Oh, it only gets the Immortality field. Nice deployment from Cup, but they will still find Vips. Traded for JW3. Gemini low, but not down. Has a window available. It's a real scrap now on this card. Malaysia barely in control of it. They dust off paper, and that could pressure Singapore just enough. If they can find one more, if they can find JW3 or Cup, that will seal this point for Malaysia in the overtime.
Xenofly's about to have ultimate though, and they have the player advantage coming, or not quite, but they have at least respawn advantage coming on through.
That's already one down for Malaysia. That's not a great start. The Flux not coming to much, but Xenofly is down. No Immortality fields. It's all cards on the table. Cup and Bip's going to be dusted off as JW3 comes into his zone of the Tracer pick. Only a minute and a half left on the clock, but Malaysia will secure B.
And Xenofly just can't catch a break here, can't land an ultimate. Fantasy rocking him almost every single time. And Malaysia, the forward momentum coming in through. Singapore, they just needed to hold out. They had the respawn advantage, they had ultimates coming online, but they need to be able to execute on all of those. We're going to get towards C. Malaysia, after spending all of their time on B, the extra time they found on A, entirely the 2 minutes 30 bonus they got on B, struggling to make their way uphill. And it ends up being, I think, the lack of the Widowmakers coming through that was hurting Singapore. Vital having to swap with the to come back in. Losing the long-range pick potential.
Oh, huge pick, Numenos. Oh, no Transcendence, and the whole thing unravels for Malaysia. That's so unfortunate. They were coming in with a potential massive advantage there. Transcendence, set up a Flux. All Singapore really had to work with at the top of that was Vital's Pulse Bomb. They didn't even need that in the end. What a massive find.
Well, I think any kill would have been fine there. Getting the backline is always important. Transcendence would have been used defensively in that fight, so I don't think an offensive tool, but any player down at that stage is bad for Malaysia, as they're currently just looking for maximum distance. Likelihood of finishing this map is reaching 0 very quickly, as we're about to reach 0 on the timer as well. OT about to tick on through, and Halo's still not up to the last lane yet.
3 caught in the Flux, decent stuff, and he's going to collect 2 immediately off the back of it. That Dragon Strike nowhere near enough. The Pulse Bomb taking out the Immortality field meant all 3 caught in that Flux suddenly landed back down, expecting to be immune, and they weren't. Malaysia back in control, but back in overtime too.
Yeah, this is where the Transcendence will really count for Malaysia. Final fight coming on through for the cap itself. Transcendence to keep everyone up. Dragon Strike into spawn, Gemini onto the backline, who actually dies. Oh my goodness, where was the lamp there?
And Numenos goes down as well. Doesn't even self-Transcendence to rescue himself. I don't think he quite registered that Gemini had gone down already. There was no healing to bail him out of that Tracer on the backline. Well, 385 is going to be as far as it gets for Malaysia. Not quite a cap.
What a whiff. 2 players going down. I mean, it's possible that Gemini didn't have the lamp cooldown available to go, so might give him a pass on that one, but my goodness, didn't use Transcendence as you start dying. That is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Now, possibly Malaysia still lose 4v5, but man, Malaysia didn't even give themselves the opportunity to come back on that final fight. They had some good inroads. I mean, they struggled on B. Again, lost all their time on B. Still capped it out in a clutch. Still got some reasonable distance on C. I mean, that was a really clean fight from Fantasy a little bit earlier on. Flux onto 3, collects onto 2 kills. Halo finally rounds the bend onto the final straight, and they get pretty much to the end, but just no final fight.
And by the way, we say no margin for error here with this first to two format because Malaysia didn't cap. If Singapore end this map, that's it. They've got the win secured. That's a really dangerous situation for Malaysia to be in on the defense now. They live and die by their own sword.
What's more dangerous is I think now that you get to start with Vital on the Widowmaker, who had a real whale of a time, I think, on their defense, especially on B. It's going to get a little bit more difficult for Malaysia. Okay, we're not really looking forward towards too much Widowmaker gameplay on C, but A and B is going to be Widow dominated. JW3 didn't really have much to say in that conversation last time around. You could argue that maybe the offensive Widowmaker is going to be in a more difficult position, and probably that's going to be the case. Vital wasn't just a Widowmaker battle. He was taking down everybody.
Paper bailing out of the Lifeweaver. Just hovering it, threatening it. But it's going to be Kiriko.
Kiriko's an interesting choice. This is not normal. You like the Discord, you like the long-range damage, you're a little bit more front-loader on maybe right-clicks connecting on the head, but it's just not consistent at all. So I think the Kiriko will ultimately most likely be the wrong choice here in terms of raw value over what the Zen can bring.
Really, this is going to come down to who gets that opening sniper pick. Fantasy feeling some heat, but comfortably topped off as Xenofly is really trying to make the space, and Malaysia are backing up quite a lot. Ooh, Cup gets low. Will survive.
As the Xenofly.
Oh, Vips gets the first pick. That's big for Singapore, who had already got a lot of, not free push, but certainly not stalled up as much as you might expect in that early bridge. But Vips now down in the trade. Vital low, Xenofly low. Gonna have to back away a little bit from that cart. No more Immortality Field. Vital does get picked by JW3. Xenofly in trouble, will get dropped, and might look to collect a couple more here. Cup gonna go down. Paper has been able to get out, but that is the stoppage that Malaysia were looking for.
A good recovery. Lost a player early, still managed to outfrag at the end of the day. The front line held strong. Fantasy never gave up ground. Way ahead of his competition. I think Fantasy has completely gapped Xenofly in this matchup on either attacking side. Gigantic. I mean, you don't expect that the Flux is going to be the first ultimate. Again, I always look towards the bat players here.
Yeah.
It's going to be neither of them so far.
Really feeling it right now. We'll have to see how well they deploy it straight onto the back line. Paper not delivering a whole lot there. Immortality Field down, but that means it's not being used on Xenofly, who's still having to take the forward brunt of all this pressure.
Suzu and Lat.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Suzu was so early as well.
And Xenofly's down. There it is. So quick, the conversion of damage, but quick trade. Whoa! All right, Vital just turns it back on a dime like that. JW3 afraid to peek and knows that he's got infrastructure on him. Fantasy going down as well, and Singapore just tear forward.
I mean, when it comes down to the battle of the windows being dropped, Singapore got a lot more out of Cup's amplification matrix than what Gemini had in store. That's despite the early Flux from Fantasy as well. In fact, you might even say it came through too early. Typically, even if you do get first Flux, I would like to see teams hold it to potentially counter out the amplification matrices being traded in there. I mean, Xenofly didn't even have a Flux, so that would have been purely in Malaysia's favor.
Just continuing the forward push. Malaysia, once again, just looking for some stoppage. Remember how long it took them to cap B, ended up getting it in the overtime, and this was around about where they got stalled up. So now, what can they accomplish? They pick Paper. The Dragon Strike coming across does split the team a little bit, but doesn't find enough damage and to create any casualties. Card's still pushing forward. Malaysia do give a lot of ground, even with the man advantage. Game Pro dude having to duck for cover for a hot second there, but with the extra kill on Vital, they can take the ground, they can reclaim the card.
This is where the holdup was when we were flipped on sides. Singapore was defending. So where Vital really started to show up and get a ton of picks. So Malaysia now need to find the same slowdown. There's a lot less time for Singapore on the attack than Malaysia were able to snowball through after they capped A, but taking down J is going to be bad for Malaysia to start off with.
Yeah, of all people to find him. And now Malaysia just one man down. Flux up on the two members there. They haven't used the Dragon Strike. They get paper with it. It's decent. No immortality field left for them, but Numenor still has a Transcendence. May want to pop that before too long. They're still under a lot of pressure. Xenofly, low but not down, ends up having to use their immortality field to save the tank. Fantasy goes in with the Flux, and they convert Xenofly. That's another important defense for Malaysia. They're able to stop the momentum once again.
Yep, Xenofly down. No comeback from that at all. You'd have to have Fantasy down and so, but it's just not going to be the case. Double support ultimates online here. At least when you are playing the Kariko. Kitsuna Rush is a fairly simple way to break through point. Now there's a lack of the Flux from Fantasy to stop that as well. It's going to have to come down to Transcendence, fighting up against the Kitsuna Rush, and a swap onto the Diva.
All right.
Xenofly is just going to completely give up on the Sigma Mirror. To be fair, he is losing that Sigma Mirror. The question will be, is this a better hero to take advantage of the Kitsuna Rush? Because that's the real win condition now.
Yeah, hard to say. Xenofly having a back right up. No immortality field already for Singapore. Minute and a half is still enough time to push this over the line. Again, remember, Malaysia only capped in overtime. So if they can do better than that, Singapore have an advantage on that point C.
You saw it ulting. Here we go. This is the rush we were waiting for. In goes Xenofly.
Directly on. Transcendence is there, but Game Pro do get sniped out anyway. A little bit unfortunate for Malaysia. They were banking on that Dragon Strike or even just the straight damage output. And look at how hard they've corralled Malaysia back around the corner. Fantasy trying to push back forward. They've got Game Pro Dude back in the mix. They have to defend this payload. It's a crunch moment. Dragon Strike across, out from Vips. Splits the team up, but hasn't got any casualties. Fantasy wasn't in their immortality field and pays through with his life. No one else able to really contest the card. Oh, that's brutal. I saw Numenors and Game Pro Dude try and barrel forward for it, but it was too late. And now losing extra members. 2 minutes on the clock. Not a whole heap of time, but certainly enough to cap the map out and win their first series.
I mean, Malaysia, they had a good opportunity there. They backed out. They avoided the Kitsuna Rush. Still had 4 alive with good respawns coming on. Losing Fantasy very quickly afterwards as they change their comp wholesale. They keep the Hanzo, but everything else is going to go over towards a Winston and a dive for our final point. So what they're going to lock themselves on. Got to reset every single ultimate they have on paper as well. Singapore, eventually Vital will have to get off this widow, but we'll see if that ends up happening.
Dragon Strike across from Game Pro Dude. First up the side. Vips gets him with the arrows going rapid fire. Maybe wanted to make a swap there anyway, did Game Pro Dude, but they would have rather have had him alive for the time being. Is a little bit more free push for Singapore. It's starting to get into a do or die situation for Malaysia. Oh, and they lose Jay.
Okay, well, Vital's still fragging out at the moment. Nothing really to protect the backline of Malaysia, so Vital can freely play these sight lines and these angles. Could be under pressure from Game Pro Dude as you see the invis on the back and the kill from Game Pro Dude onto Vital.
Very important find. That's going to give Singapore pause, and that's so critical with how close they're getting. And Malaysia have given up a lot of cart push when they've been on this defense. Self-destruct, barreling forward, the team having to duck for cover. They will be able to survive it. Jay timing a recall very nicely there. Has himself a pulse bomb as well. Fishing for something. Minute remaining now. Jay goes down. Vips once again finding one. Now raking across with the Dragon Strike. That's going directly through the side onto Numenors and Gemini, who are barely surviving. But it's going to be a nano boost onto Fantasy. Barreling forward. Finds paper. Pressuring on Vips as well. Now has the Primal Rage. Keeping that DPS under lockdown. Keeping everyone away from the cart. 30 seconds on the clock. DMAC on Xenofly. Corner trap on Vital. He gets run down. And that is a really lean respawn clock for Singapore.
Malaysia look like they have the tools to take this one. An EMP to finalize. Rally as well to hold on. Singapore run out of resources. A wild Kitsuna Rush from paper onto the high ground. In the dying breaths. Not too sure about that one. You would have liked to have held on to that for the final fight indeed. Put it down the mid lane. Coming back on a Zen now of all heroes. You're playing a dive comp. This is such a weird position for Singapore to be in. Their comp is all over the place.
And they've only got 4 seconds left. Game Pro Dude has been spotted, but that does not matter. Going to go straight on top of the team with this EMP here, waiting for his opportunity. Cloaking to get past Vips. Straight on top, deployed very nicely. Immortality field dusted, cup and paper done for Malaysia. Ironclad on this defense. Rock solid, perfect deployment there from Game Pro Dude, and a brilliant follow-up as well. You've really got to credit them where it's due. That was a sudden death defense for Malaysia, and they're going to clear it through. We are going to tie ourselves up.
What a map. Malaysia coming back strong. Had the early lead on the attack, but an important slowdown, but they push all the way through C. They're on their own defense. A final swap onto the dive composition. Starts working wonders. The Diva pseudo dive coming through from Singapore, losing momentum. Vips and Vital can only do so much for this team, unfortunately. Got a real game on our hands rather now. What a scoreline. All right.
Solid.
And what a comeback from Malaysia. We looks like we're going to now go to a third map.
Decider and push.
Not a draw.
Not a draw.
Right.
A decider and push. Could be dive heavy here, so we're looking forward to the potential for Malaysia to go back over towards Winston. That could be very strong again. A lot of options available.
Yeah, Malaysia looks way more comfortable in that one, just, compared to our opening map, and it felt like they had a lot more depth in the hero pool. Subbing in Xenoflay just didn't seem to work out for Singapore the way they wanted it to.
Yeah, it was fantastic to watch. I didn't know which team was going to win, and well done to Malaysia for bringing it back. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back soon, everyone, and on to map 3.
You asked, we listened. The McFeast is back in all its beefy, salady, saucy glory. Value means more at Macca's, so grab a McFeast lunch deal now for only $5.95.
Welcome back, everyone. And if you have been watching, you will know that Malaysia has made an amazing comeback there on map 2, which means we will be going to map 3, a push map that will be decided by Singapore. Let's talk about the last map that we just did see. It was very close. We weren't too sure who was going to win, but what were some highlights we saw that really had Malaysia win that out there?
I think for me, Fantasy was just much better in the Sigma matchup to start out with. Vital had some very good shots coming through on the Widowmaker as well, but slowed down a little bit on the opposite. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that attacking Widow is going to be that much more difficult. But yeah, Malaysia's flexibility in terms of rolling through and saying, okay, we're going to actually change composition wholesale for the final point here. I had some question marks about that. I didn't think they needed to change that hard, but they did anyway, and ended up working out pretty well. They found the ultimates towards the end there. And despite the, I think, a little bit of flustered gameplay from Malaysia on their attacking side, what we saw on the C point, lack of the ultimates being used, Numenor's just dying without using the trans to final fight, that still sticks out in my mind, but they recovered and won the map anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's my kind of takeaway is like, there's been a few unforced errors by Malaysia, not so much by Singapore. So when Malaysia aren't making those errors, they're straight up performing well enough to win. And even when they are having some of those errors, they're performing well enough to win. So you like to imagine that if they continue to not make further errors for this last map, then Singapore kind of have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, definitely. And well done to Malaysia. They obviously did pick that map, so they were playing hopefully to a favorite map of theirs and a team comp that they are comfortable with. As Avril mentioned, we did see that they were very comfortable there with the tank player out the front holding those lines. And we're going to find out now from Singapore, hopefully, what map they will be picking as we go into the third map. And obviously with push, we won't have a draw. There will be a decided winner at the end of this one.
And I think all three maps are fairly close. There are some slight differences in terms of which one you would go to favor which composition, but largely I think you can play Ram across all the maps. We saw Jungle Queen coming through from Malaysia on map 1. They can actually repeat that pretty comfortably on either of the three that we move on towards, maybe less so on the Qualifiers. It's Singapore's map choice anyway, so I think they, you know, trying to figure out what their best comps have been. Maybe going back over towards Ramatra is the most safe way to play this. They can go to New Queens for that pretty safely.
And that's an interesting...
Well, let's take... Oh,
I was going to say there's a bit of a question mark as well there because we've actually not seen a Ramatra out of Fantasy. So if we do end up seeing that out of Singapore, then we go back to that same question of like, do they match? Do they just sit with the Junker Queen again? And we saw how that worked out on Ilios. So there are some question marks that hang over the tank lineup here once again. And I believe we have Xenofly subbed back out for Ashkane. So that Ramatra is feeling pretty likely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's take a look and see what Singapore has decided for their potential comeback here on push. And it looks like it's going to be a new Queen Street here for them on the last map.
Could have done 3 for 3 on Mediterranean climates, but all right, I guess we'll go to Canada. Disappointing.
I think you go to the map that most favors your Ramatra composition here. And I think Coliseum will be a little bit too friendly for potential dives, Esperanza as well. You want to eliminate the impact of a potential Junker Queen comp coming towards you. Yeah, force something that's going to be very favored towards Brawl. Now you're going to be tested if you're Malaysia. Do you have that Brawl to match up? Are you just going to go over towards the Queen again? It's probably going to be a little bit less, I think, good in this particular mirror matchup. You know, Singapore will take us to the final map and see if the Ram can take it through.
Yeah, definitely. And Singapore's obviously going to want to win this final one so that they can, you know, get the first mark on that board for the APAC B side today.
That's the thing. It's like, this is actually a really big start. Well, actually, I'd frame it the other way. This is a really disastrous start for whichever of these two teams takes the L here. We've talked about how dangerous the other teams in this region are looking. Everyone's going to have to take a matchup against Australia. That's one you're unlikely to walk away from with a win. And then across the rest of these teams here, between India, New Zealand, and Thailand, you've got solid rosters that are threatening. So if you come in with an L here, you've got to pick up a lot of wins against a lot of good teams. That's the scary thing. That's the real thing on the line for this first match. It's less about getting the W, it's more about avoiding the L.
I think you need a minimum 3 wins here. If you get only 2 wins, 3 losses, you're pretty much out of this group. 3 wins, you can rely on tiebreakers. 4 wins, you'd be pretty safe. 5 wins, obviously, you're probably going to be first seed, aren't you? So 4 is the golden standard. 3 would be the minimum viable product tab. And off to new Queen Street you go. No surprise, Ash came back in the lineup here, straight on top of the Ram. Fantasy, we asked the question, can the Ram come through? The answer is no. It will indeed be the Moira, no, rather, well, it's got to be a Moira, but the Jungle Queen for Fantasy. Lucio back for Singapore, though, so they're not even going to play the Lucio Moira version. They're going to play a little bit more of a pokey style here. It's Bap and Hanzo. See if that gives Malaysia the opportunity to play against the wall of Vips, and once the wall goes down, they can just rush straight in.
I can relate to this climate right now. I mean, it's not snowy here, but it is cold. We had a rainy, wet summer, and we're having a cold winter, and I don't know what to do with myself. Malaysia, I hope they do know what to do with themselves. First scrap just on this high ground on the side here. Beautiful, picturesque. I assume those are meant to be maple trees. That's an offensive stereotype, but oh well. Though in all fairness, they did put a maple leaf on their flag, so it's...
Yeah, fair enough. They called for it, they asked for it. So here we go. As shout out to Karku who's watching this, I know. As first fight's just been really slow. I mean, first minute's about to be gone.
Yeah.
Had a couple of boop attempts. Walls are finally coming up after a minute.
First shout from Fantasy as well to push everyone forward, but this GamePro dude a little bit overextended maybe. Feeling the heat, has to back away. Gemini speeding the team to safety as they rotate around. So first little push there from Malaysia, not quite working out. Now Singapore back to poking them. Wait for that May wall to expire, and then we'll see what happens. Next shout to come through. Here we go. Coalescence, no more Immortality Field. Ashkane looking a little isolated. They're pumping, healing into him double time. Speaking of which, healing Numenos having to take a few beats off pressuring to heal up his allies. A 1-for-1 so far. Losing Vips, bit of a tough break, but GamePro dude just as impactful. Fantasy trying to push forward. They have to wait out Paper's window first. Get everyone topped off. Cup, sound barrier available. Not the same for Gemini. So Ashkane, a little bit of an advantage. Malaysia throw down an ice wall just to give themselves a break.
It was a really good pressure valve that Paper was able to release there, because you had to keep Ashkane alive, and he's going to be staying alive now. Gemini still off, needs sound barrier. That will be good.
Okay, finally able to commit it. Cups 1 has expired, and that also means they can outlast Ashkane's ultimate here as he is in that Nemesis form. They get GamePro, but they lose Vital. Not ideal. No more Immortality Field. Throws it up, dispatched of. Malaysia starting to pull ahead in this fight. Vips low, Paper down as well. First bit of push go to Malaysia.
It's 2 minutes and, well, 2 minutes roughly gone. 2 minutes and 15 now. Malaysia will finally win the first fight. Can you believe that was actually just one fight? I mean, a 2-minute opening fight. Every ultimate basically has come through at this point. It comes down to the fact that the Ramatra Annihilation not strong enough there. Gemini barely able to get the sound barrier in time. I would have liked to have seen Singapore maybe get a couple of picks before Gemini could really come through in the sound barrier, but that sound barrier saves everybody. Yeah. Blizzard ends up coming through to finish. Vital to Numenos to start with.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tough break. It's probably going to switch momentum back the other way. Ashkane, though, anti-heal down on him.
Rampage.
Yeah, that's enough to finish him off. Very nicely done. And Fantasy tearing forward, finding Vital as well. Pulling a lot of weight here. I mean, forward is the direction that Jungle Queen wants to be moving. They find Vips. They keep J003 alive. Now Cup going in Sacrificial Lamb just to slow down the push tick there. Malaysia
it's a good
keeping it tidy. Yeah.
A really good slowdown. The payload's actually sold out. They need to keep pushing, guys. What are you doing? You're trying to run off and find kills, but they need to push, put the pressure onto Singapore. Cup's going to respawn now, and I think they can come in for a final take before the cap. So the little bit of stagger there from Cup, very important. Ashkane's arrived. There it is.
Right down the center of it. They can dive straight forward, though, as soon as they want with the Coalescence at their back. Dragon Strike across to stop that further bit of follow-up. Not going to find any members. Nice ice wall there to keep J003 isolated. GamePro trying to barrel forward. Double Death Blossom. I say Double Death Blossom, rather just the one Death Blossom with a single kill. In my mind, I was like, well, this is loud and exciting. There's got to be 2 of these happen at once, but Malaysia, very nicely handled.
Stereo. You heard it twice.
I did. Dolby surround sound, mate.
Okay, well, Malaysia got the spawn of Singapore surrounded. Cap finally coming through. 4 minutes, and it's now all Malaysia all day. Took them a while to win that opening neutral, but they got that, and the snowball as well. They're going to give up the pit. That's interesting. I think you just keep fighting there. Singapore already dropped to the low ground, taking an even fight on the low ground. You have Blizzard available. Why back out?
They're trying to get a little bit of a split with this ice wall. Not quite going to work. Everyone's up in this Blizzard. And there we go. Yeah, really bad from Cup. Unfortunately, the Blizzard deployed, and you could have heard that in the voice line. But either way, a very nice pickup for Malaysia.
I mean, he had his sound barrier blocked by the wall. He needed to go on top of the wall or over the wall or something, but using it around the wall, it's not going to reach Ash Kane.
Save
Malaysia
one
will
more
win
time.
that fight. I mean, they did lose a little bit of, I think, payload presence there for that fight. Again, they probably pulled back a little too far, but enough to still win that fight. A little bit more distance.
And now Malaysia's so comfortable with these ultimates cycling through. Rampage forward, easy pickups here. Nothing committed on the defense, and smartly so. Yeah, 2 ultimates used there. Gonna start threatening that final cap here.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know that they will cap, but they'll get the triple digits. I'm seeing 110 plus at the moment. And Singapore, their ability to come back from here is going to be pretty minimal. We're talking less than 5 minutes now. Half the map is gone. Well over 110.
Yeah, Singapore
can payload stops.
So you can see 110, but as long as they don't see 9, they'll be just fine. Fantasy is down early. Not saved by that sound barrier, unfortunately. And now himself down as well. Singapore having to dig into it with the Coalescence and the Blizzard. Collecting the kills, though. Very important there. And Malaysia not investing too many ultimates critically.
I mean, why even bother using... They invested too much. Why even bother sound barrier there? You have Fantasy down. If you weren't going to be able to save Fantasy, don't even play for the 4v5. Save ultimates only for the final 4 minutes, where realistically you don't need to cap it, just defend for 4 minutes. Play whatever else you have to counter the more important annihilation. Singapore's opportunity to find a little bit of distance. Everyone got the 4 spawns on Malaysia, so early find the neutral.
Singapore, what are they going to be able to do? It's going to be a Blizzard, and Blizzards have been pretty reliable. Fight wins for Malaysia, dropping the Death Blossom straight on top of it. Once again, in stereo. Love hearing that twice. Malaysia, they will have to reset forwards now. Singapore get another shot at this defense. Malaysia get another shot at the cap out.
I mean, just shove the payload up towards the ramp, and I don't think you even bother going up the ramp into the defender spawn.
Play for time.
Obviously, get the cap for the forward spawns. Play for time here, kick the ball around, just pass it around, even kick it out of bounds. You're just here to waste a bit of time now as you slowly win this map.
And that's the thing, it's been an entire minute burned here just for Singapore getting that defense, then Malaysia getting a win straight back. Losing Game Pro Dude though means Singapore get a little bit more of a serious push forward. Vital going to go straight and looking for a Death Blossom. J003 in trouble, goes down, continuing to push forward. Hasn't needed the Death Blossom yet. Looking to dust off even more members now. Numenor's in trouble. This is an absolutely clean sweep. Malaysia struggling to actually back out of that position.
I mean, Malaysia needed to actually have a fight when Singapore were running at them. They thought they could just rotate away, but unfortunately, a bunch of members are caught down mid-rotation. Singapore win that too cheaply. Every single fight that Singapore win, if you're Malaysia, you have to force them to ult here. Every fight needs to be expensive. Singapore threatening cap here now.
Yeah.
It's a long journey to a potential comeback, but if they can get this cap, you start thinking about it.
Double Coalescence, Fantasy, a little bit chilly there, goes down. There's going to be no Rampage. A lot of ultimates invested, though, for Singapore. So, expensive fight. That is what Malaysia need. However, Singapore getting that cap, I mean, they're still very much in this.
Well, 3 ultimates gone, though, and they only have half the distance, so they're in it, but they're still not really in it because the second half is really difficult for Singapore to push into. First half, getting the cap, challenging. Second half, this is straight up hell. So, Malaysia now fighting downhill, Singapore fighting uphill. Singapore have to even back out a little.
There we go, Malaysia trying to get aggressive. Rampage forward, nice catch. That sound barrier is in there, but that's a lot of anti-heal. Game Pro Dude down early, but traded for Vital. You'll take that trade. They need to keep Jay alive. They have a Blizzard to be deployed. Ashkane popping the ultimate as well. And there we go, there's the Blizzard. That's going to collect Ashkane, that's going to collect Cup, and they just want to get the robot as far away as possible. They're still playing for time here. 1 minute 20 left. Malaysia just need to run out the clock.
Fantasy pushed forward really hard with the Rampage, and it actually cuts Ashkane off from the rest of Malaysia. So no healing, no long-range healing. Man, you have to stack pretty tight here. You're playing Lucio Moira on both sides. You lose Vital. Ashkane tries to just solo that one with the Annihilation, but need a lot more support to get that off.
Ice Wall there, isolates Vips, ends up paying off for them. I'm surprised they actually managed to collect that one, but there we go. That keeps time lean for Singapore. That's what Malaysia need, get the robot far away. This is currently playing it by the book.
Less than 1 minute left to go, and again, you don't have to push any further from here. Leave the payload around this ramp, allow Singapore to walk forward and And the longer it takes Singapore to find a fight, the better the situation is for Malaysia.
Yes, getting real dangerous for Singapore now. 30 seconds left, and they haven't got a match distance. They have the robot well in their territory, and they've just lost Cup. It's all starting to unravel. And there we go. Death Blossom, Vitals down. Looking to collect a few more. Don't even need to collect a few more. Just need to force Singapore out. 12 seconds left on the clock. Hell, Malaysia might even be able to go for a cap of their own at this rate. Just to really kick sand in the face. Nope, they're going to back out. They know that it's not enough time on the clock. Now it's going to be Singapore in the overtime on the robot, trying desperately to get that full distance. Malaysia only need one fight.
And they can take that one fight over the course of many engagements here. Solo Blizzard even.
Beautifully done. Just needed to catch one with that ultimate, and that was exactly what they did. J003 has nailed it with these Blizzards consistently. They have been guaranteed fight winners for Malaysia, and now it's going to be a guaranteed match winner in that final fight as well. The overtime wick burns out, and Malaysia walk away from it despite dropping that first map.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Singapore. And they look decent coming into map number 1. Malaysia clutched on through handily, I think, on the second map, despite having some, I think, difficulties on Circuit Royale. But really, you come down to New Queen Street. This was even, by the way, Singapore's map pick. I think, you know, the reasoning for the choice and the composition, it all makes sense. But even if on paper the Ram plays well into the Queen, the issue here is they just lack tempo. They struggle to really execute on the composition. I think some of the ultimates came in really slowly as well. Couldn't match the players of Malaysia, again, in terms of the raw pace of the game. And once Malaysia won, like, what, 3 fights in a row? I think at the 60-meter mark, okay, you can't, but the game's not over. You reach, like, the 80, 90-meter mark, you get over 100, it's just like, you can call it right then and there. I think at that point, it's 4 minutes, it's just, like I said, kicking the ball around until it's over, because Malaysia, they secured it by about 6 minutes into the game.
Really nicely handled on the whole there, and hopefully we can get Domino's lovely voice back in our ears in just a second. Yeah, impressive play on the whole there. Well deserved from Malaysia. Once they kind of found their feet and got it underneath them, they looked really good across the series. We had that question about the Ramatra situation for Fantasy, and we kind of put that one to bed. He didn't need to play Ramatra. It worked just fine with Junker Queen.
Yeah, definitely. What an amazing comeback there for Malaysia. As Avril said, on a map they didn't even choose. This was Singapore's chosen map, and Malaysia really just took it from under them. And as you've mentioned, Fantasy really made Junker Queen work for them. We expected the Ramatra plays, and so well done to them. They knew they picked a comfort pick here. They did go maybe against the meta, but they picked what they knew they could play, and they played it really well. So well done to them for that one.
I'll say they don't need the Ramatra now, but maybe versus some other teams they might.
Certainly,
Queen
certainly.
Still will be a question mark for me moving forward. I don't think it's a bad pick, just to be completely frank. But yeah, I think there's some tougher competition out there a little bit later on. To be fair, I think Fantasy is probably the player that stood out to me on Team Malaysia. Really, the Sigma performance on Circle Royale was really good to see.
Yeah.
The change onto the Winston ended up working out. And Queen, while sort of in the meta, not my favorite pick in the meta, still made that work as well, and it's a great effect on your Queen Street.
I mean, also fair to note, right? Fantasy was in the whole way through. We saw a switch up partway through that for Singapore. They brought Xenofly in for map 2 to bring in the Sigma and be their Sigma specialist. Fantasy was able to outplay Xenofly on the Sigma matchup as well. So yeah, I kind of want to just redouble that credit. Quick shout out as well to J003 on the last map was massively impactful, especially as I said towards the end with those Blizzards. They were guaranteed fight winners. I mean, that in itself is huge compared to what Vips was pulling off. Just not the same kind of deal.
Singapore is going to have a much harder journey now, I think, for both these teams. Any shot at maybe potentially clutching through for a shot at the top 2, you have to win this matchup first, because you need to, again, I think have a minimum of 3 wins here, aiming for the 4 wins, and one of those wins needs to be either against Singapore, Malaysia, because I think there's a high likelihood that the other teams will be able to get those wins off of Singapore, Malaysia for at least 2.
Definitely. What a fantastic start to the APAC Group B here today. And look, we're going to take a short break and we'll be back very soon, everyone.
You asked, we listened. The McFeast is back in all its beefy, salady, saucy glory. Value means more at Macca's, so grab a McFeast lunch deal now for only $5.95.
Hey, I'm Riley, also known as Coffer, and I'm the tank and IGL of Team Australia. What sets me apart from other Overwatch players? It'd have to be how much time and how dedicated I am to it. I see a lot of people have like other commitments, and it's fair enough if you're not in tier 1. Overwatch might not be your entire livelihood, but I think I put more hours than any other player in the same division, so I think I've got a great advantage of time on my hands. Some of my biggest role models within the Overwatch Australia esports community would have to be Punk Unter Face. There's 2 LA Gladiators coaches within the Overwatch League and a Vancouver Titans tank player. It's kind of limited, the resources you get within OS, so it's great to have these people available to help, especially during the World Cup. My go-to Macca's order would definitely have to be a double quarter pounder meal. There's nothing better than those beef patties, I'll tell you that. Make deliveries now on the My Macca's app. How do I deliver under pressure? I generally just focus on breathing techniques before and during important matches, and my years of competing in like high stress situations has prepared me for the big moments. Queuing ranked all day every day won't actually get you as far as you think. You have to be a lot more critical in your own gameplay and watching back VODs, seeing what mistakes you did and how to fix them. Watching pros can also help a lot develop like cool strategies, and you can understand how to play the game at a higher level.
Welcome back to the Overwatch World Cup online qualifiers. We are here with the APAC B group, and I'm joined with the lovely Avril and Pixie here. And if you are just tuning in, I'll let you know that we have the first win on the board. Malaysia has taken it out against Singapore. I can imagine they feel absolutely over the moon about the fact that they have that first win on the board here for the Group B stage. And let's have a talk about those maps there. It was I think it was actually quite some really close matches and then some not so close matches there. Avril, Pixie, talk to us about what has happened here so far with Singapore versus Malaysia.
Yeah, look, it's a good first hurdle to get over for Malaysia, getting it over Singapore. I think these are the two teams that will most likely have the most difficult journey, so they need to be able to find at least that first win, get their first point on the board. And honestly, I think Malaysia, especially on New Queen Street, was quite impressive because, you know, up until then it was a very close game, but once you got to New Queen Street, you get to the push map, you start to really be able to break away in terms of how much better Malaysia was than Singapore.
Yeah, that was definitely where you started to feel the difference. I mean, already on Circuit Royale, I noted towards the end as well, Malaysia made a few unforced errors and still won in spite of that. So like 1-1, their play was actually just better. They had some real solid clutch moments, and as you just said, Kevin, like then they just kind of carried that forward onto push. Much cleaner gameplay, weren't making the same kind of errors, and it was a way more one-sided affair, which is really impressive to see.
So we are going to move over to our second match today, which will be New Zealand versus Thailand. Let's take a look at the New Zealand lineup and who will be starting out in this team here. Let's talk about some of these players. We know some of these players very well, don't we, guys?
They live on the same street as me. There's only 3 streets in New Zealand, so yeah. And one of them,
how are they divided? Is it a triangle? Does it look like a peace sign?
Yeah, one of them is State Highway 1. One of them is State Highway 1, which goes all the way down the country.
Yep.
And then there's one road in Auckland, the biggest city, and then there's one road in Wellington, the capital city, and that's it. So that's the 3 total roads, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I heard Adam told me that Calahex is playing from McDonald's on using the Wi-Fi today, so that'll be fun. No, he's really not, but he is going to be at least role swapping, which is weird to say because you know of him to be a DPS player, but he role swapped recently to support, and now he'll be role swapping back over to DPS for this event. New Zealand, probably one of the teams that has a decent chance of making it out in the top 2 here, but still a lot of challenges, some good challenges in this group.
And I'm my bias is going to show unashamedly. I'm in New Zealand currently. I'm in one of the most iconic buildings in the country, probably the only iconic building in the country. 3 roads, 1 building. That's how we do things. And yeah, I have a New Zealand passport as well. I don't know why I omitted that fact earlier in the evening. Absolutely, New Zealand is going to win. They're going to win the whole thing. They're going to beat Australia. They're going to make you look like clowns, frankly. And this is where it all starts.
Okay, I'm glad
he thinks we're playing rugby. I don't know. We'll
oh my goodness! I'm glad we've got this being recorded. So when Australia does beat New Zealand, we can just play this back for Pixie. All of that definitely. But look, let's take a look at that Thailand team who will be versing off against New Zealand here today. And any key people we would like to talk about? You did mention earlier that we have seen Aputo around previously. They are an old player here.
Super veteran.
Yeah.
Super veteran.
With an incredibly short name. By the way, not just Aputo. His name is
not as short as Ace.
No, not as short as Ace.
It's even shorter.
Aputo's name is Ubon Dara. 4 syllables total, 8 letters. That is one of the most efficient names, pound for pound, I've ever seen.
You got a good look at the players here. At least some of them, a couple of them are taking a break at the moment as we get ready for map number 1.
We get to look at the players' elbows.
I think it's cool to be able to see the players here. One of the few times that we'll be able to sort of witness them, and good to see them on like qualifier as well. But a team comprised mostly of players that just won contenders APAC in the summer series, representing Team Kraken Esports. So I think there's a lot of danger here. This is a team that is, I would say one of the quiet favorites. If you consider Australia to be the main favorite out of this group, Thailand is a team that has a lot of experience on it from old players, but a lot of players that are currently in contenders and winning and at the top of the game.
And that's going to make this a really testy matchup, right? We kind of previewed it a little bit at the top of the night, but it's a tough one. These are 2 of the teams that we're highlighting as potentially looking to make it out of the top of this group, one of the 2 slots available to continue in the tournament. I mentioned it in the last series that it's really more about not taking the L than it is about picking up the W. I think that's doubly true here because whoever takes that loss, they have a lot to prove. Whoever gets the win, they can afford to drop the probable one they'll drop against Australia. And I see New Zealand, you're going to beat Australia if you're New Zealand. And you actually have that room to breathe, if you will, in your tournament lifespan. You kind of highlighted, Kevin, 3 wins is kind of your break point. That's what you want to hit. And there's a very limited number of matches to accomplish that in. So this is a really crucial one. You have to be beating those other top teams.
It's 3 minimum. It's probably going to be 4 and 5 wins that will actually make it through, but 3 minimum to even be in the conversation.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the map choices starting here. So it will be another control map, and we'll show that up here on the screen to see what we are starting with. And it is again going to be sorry, not again. We didn't have Lijiang Tower before, but we are going to start now with Lijiang Tower. Now, I have to ask, do we think we'll get to see some Pharah on this map? I know it's not usually meta anymore, but do we think people will pull it out?
Australia might, but we're not seeing Australia just yet. That will be a hidden trump card for them a little bit later on. Out of these players, it's a little. I don't think New Zealand will go for it personally. Thailand, I will be honest in saying I don't know the roster well enough to be able to make an informed decision on that one. So we'll leave it open.
Give me your best uninformed opinion.
Maybe.
Nice.
Yeah, I actually said it before you asked, so
real fence
I just repeated
sitter.
myself.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, if we're not going to see the Pharahs, what are the metas we should be expecting on the Lijiang Tower matchups?
Same as what we saw, really. Maybe a little bit more of the Winston dive. Otherwise, same as what we already saw on the first game.
Yeah, so lots of Matras, maybe some Sombras, sort of in there, a lot of Baps.
Possibly a Queen, but not guaranteed. Maybe a Bat, but I think Lucia Moira is the support combination of the current meta at the moment. So most teams will be running that, with some variation of attack they prefer.
I'm desperately fishing for like a McDonald's pun, but I just can't find one. I'm working double time. Like when you mentioned like Queen, I'm like Royale. There's got to be something there, surely. I can't.
Royale.
Yeah, like
The Mac Royale, was that ever a thing? Am I just making things up?
It sounds like it would have been a thing. They talk about it in Pulp Fiction, don't they? I don't know.
Oh, it's the Cheese Royale.
Cheese Royale. No, it's a Royale with cheese. Get it together. I don't know.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's get into it now as we head over to Lijiang Tower, and we have the amazing Avril and Pixie guiding us through this map.
You know, the Royale with cheese didn't even look that good.
No, it really didn't.
It really didn't even look that good. What? This match, though, New Zealand, Thailand, I'm hoping it looks good, because it looks good on paper. Especially, I think, you know, Team Thailand, people might be sleeping on this team. It'll be pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
For New Zealand as well, you know, every game has some pretty high stakes, but at the same time, it's like, man, this is the one where if you can get, because it could be a 3-way race between New Zealand, Thailand, and Australia. The more I think about it, the more I think that's likely a 3-way race, which means somebody's going to miss out, which means if you're in this sort of 3-way situation between New Zealand, Thailand, and Australia, you got to be winning these games.
Love a pause.
Specifically.
It's because we're on this. They're like, all right, we need to give our boys a pause. That's the New Zealand team right there coming through for us. This is all about the content. I got a bone to pick real quick.
His Wi-Fi went out.
Who designed his McDonald's Wi-Fi gave out? Who designed the New Zealand like little flag tile there? Because I don't think they've ever seen a New Zealand flag or sports uniform. All right, real straight up.
Oh, wait till you see the Great Britain one.
It's a red, white, and blue. Same colors as Australia. Same colors as like 90% of the country. We even have a Union Jack on there, but we don't even compete under that 90% of the time. We use black with the silver fern motif, and sometimes we use that same blue as well. You could have just done black and blue, totally fine. What on earth is that? They heard about the black and they're like, oh God, we use the flag colors, we've got to throw some black in there as well, and it's just a mess, an absolute mess.
Tell us how you really feel.
Throw my pen in protest.
Like
graphic design is my passion.
Yeah, apparently. But I was going to say with the pause there and potential outage, Pixie, did you want to go restart the one router that you guys all share on that street?
No, we have a guy for that.
New Zealand? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
A guy.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm sure the
Is he
wait
with us
won't
now?
be long.
Is the guy in the room with us right now? We actually have a sheep for that. I had a really fun conversation with an American a while ago, and I was just like catching up, and he goes, you live in New Zealand, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I heard you got something like 8 sheep for every person there or something. And I'm like, yeah, it's something like that. And he goes, where do you keep them? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, where do you keep your sheep? Like your 8 sheep? And I'm like, no. Some of the people have all of the sheep. It's not like, here's your citizenship and your 8 sheep. Like I have a basement that I gotta keep them in or something. I gotta shear them every summer. That's not how it works, dude. We actually recently dropped below, we're at the lowest sheep to people ratio we've ever been in history now. I don't know how I feel about that. We're losing our identity as a nation. Between that and this godforsaken nation tile in this World Cup, I've got another object to throw and I'm throwing it.
So it's a very deep market metaphor you did there. Some of the people have all the sheep. To the top 1% have all the sheep,
The
Matt?
top 1% of sheep,
is there some
of
extreme
shepherds,
sheep disparity
top 1%
happening?
of shepherds have 90% of the sheep, yeah.
I don't know how Avril is not cracking up laughing right now.
It's
Like,
actually
I'm
because
just
he's sick of it.
losing it.
Because he's sick of it. It's because he and I have worked together for years. The
funny to me,
spark
that's
is
fine.
long since gone in our marriage. He's punching the clock right now.
All right, look, everyone, we're going to save you from all the sheep talk and the graphic design talk, and we're going to take a short break while we get ready for while we wait, for the players to get back ready for the match. So we'll be right back, guys.
And I'm gonna go pick up my pen.
You asked, we listened. The McFeast is back in all its beefy, salady, saucy glory. Value means more at Macca's, so grab a McFeast lunch deal now for only $5.95.
Welcome back, everyone, and our lobby is now ready to go, and we are all ready for Lijiang Tower, so I hope you are as well. Pixie, Avril, you guys ready for this?
Yep, welcome back to my pen as well, just in case I get riled up and need to throw it again. The players are
Please
never
stop
ready.
throwing things in the studio.
Because they weren't ready.
Oh, you're right, I
So
might
are they
damage
ready?
the one camera in the country if I'm not careful.
Hopefully everyone's ready. Look, we are in a region where we know there are internet issues. Like, look, we live in Australia. We are constantly having internet issues, so
Can't relate. We have fiber to the door.
to the door.
To
oh
the door.
My goodness.
We rolled it out for free countrywide. Even the rural, and we've got Starlink now. We've got satellite internet. Mwah!
That is
Crushing it.
actually impressive.
Yeah.
Well, look, the players are ready. Let's head on over to Lijiang Tower.
But don't move here, go to Australia instead. We're full. I like having 3 roads.
I took that advice.
Yeah,
I took
you
that
did.
advice, actually.
You left. You're like, you know what I like? More heat and worse internet.
Can't complain about that. New Zealand, Ryan, not one of JCap's normal heroes. He'll roll it through. TP through the window strategy, not quite. They used a TP earlier. Their team is really split, and this is a mega awkward start. New Zealand about to get routed.
That being said, with Calburn and Highvish both down, Ace as well soon to follow, it was looking like New Zealand were in a terribly split situation, but able to get JCap around the side and sort of loop everyone in through the back. What was a split team ended up being a pincer maneuver and works a charm, getting the point.
I can't believe Thailand lost that situation. New Zealand were all over the place, and Thailand failed to capitalize, and they somehow end up on the back foot.
Oh,
They'll be on the
Highvish.
front foot this time, though.
Yeah, finding par, that's already a great start. Now Calburn looking to brawl right on top of the point. JCap having to give up ground quick, smart, and there we go, goes down. Thailand coming back in pretty hot.
Okay, so it's just the 16% on board for New Zealand, Thailand. Really nice pick by High Vision. Wonder if Pa will swap heroes here. You haven't really built up enough sim ult charge to justify this anymore. If they got to play for another TP strike, you can see the High Vision's already blocked that through with the Ice Wall. Last time, though, New Zealand kind of whiffed their strat. Did they try to remember if they used their TP early or not, but they're not going to TP through at all. Might sit up on the floor instead.
Yeah, almost looked like they were trying to fake out or something bizarre like that. JCap gets slept and anti-heal, but is otherwise fine. It's 2 for nothing so far, looking to find Pale, and High Vision already down as well. So really quick, brutal fights on both sides of it. Any team pushing onto this point is finding pretty quick conversion, and now New Zealand back in control once again.
Finn getting caught there. Run, not Finn, but I think it might have been a Pudo getting caught there. Thailand, their backline in any case. First blood from New Zealand. Really quick fights back and forth, as you mentioned. New Zealand just forced their way through the front door there. Didn't even have to TP. Saved the TP for the further play. Pally sitting on Anna here. Anna with the nano annihilation, brilliant combo. Ace for the brilliant pick on a color hex. Okay, that's a way in.
Rest in pepperonis. That Blizzard would have been really crucial on the defense to slow down these very aggressive, very brawly teams. New Zealand trying to rotate backwards with that sound barrier to charge in to fight a Pudo. Whoa! Absolute rope-a-dope play from New Zealand. Wrapping around the side and charging back in with JCap. Works flawlessly.
Yeah, it starts badly, but New Zealand pull through again. Lose a play super quick, and now they've saved the Blizzard, so they're using it for future fights. Put it a little bit too far away from sound barrier. Pally held on to the nano. I would have felt like nano plus Nidash at the same time is a critical combo.
JCap a little bit isolated,
A little bit
but
concern here. Okay, he makes
charges
it out.
Yeah, color hex though going down. Did at least deploy the Blizzard, but I don't know if they're going to be able to convert much. They find a Pudo. They didn't get to freeze up any tanks. Now they lost power as well. Ace has been the one to receive the nano boost. Is so difficult to kill and outputting a ton with it. JCap in trouble here.
Still
Wedged in. Not going to last much longer. Round in the bed of 85% though is decent for New Zealand despite losing the fight. Back into one fight territory for themselves, but Thailand will be able to control the point.
Looks like it's been a while since Colex has played defense. That's what I'm saying, right? He roll swap. Now he's roll swapping back, at least for this event. Did twice in a row really quickly. Did get the Blizzard through, but New Zealand couldn't capitalize off that 90%. This is, I think, the first photon barrier for Par that we'll be able to see as well. Has held the ultimate for a while. It's a fake TP in the window. Baits out the ice wall.
Yeah, they've been doing that a few times, doing a sort of dummy TP, and it's sort of worked. Colorhex down early once again. The light wall is in, trying to isolate some members. JCap frozen up, though. It's a nice blizzard from High Vision, and JCap's going to get dusted. That's going to be a bit of a non-starter for New Zealand. They use the window on that as well. Unfortunately, not a single counter trade. Finn just takes the L. New Zealand still in 1-5 territory, but Thailand starting to push close to it as well.
Well, Thailand's about to hit 90 here, and they have the better ultimates moving through. Better defensive position. You can still, again, I think if Par stays on the sim, you can bait the May wall. But this is where the sim is starting to be a little bit less value.
Oh, what a shatter! They tried to get aggressive with it. They end up paying off, though. They survived the shatter. Calburn up front and center.
Fight, by the way.
Yeah, and that's going to do it. The front, I mean, Calburn really kind of put the team on his shoulders for that one, barreling forward. This is going to be the stagger out from Finn, just getting onto the point for the sake of touching it. Needs to survive as well. They kind of need the sound barrier if they're going to have a bit of a shot at this. The rest of New Zealand trying to come in. Finn, Slep will go down. Tough break there. Rest of the team now trying to touch. JCap's coming in. Colorhex on the side. JCap's already down low. Once again, Calburn with the nano boost, keeping the point on. Lockdown, 99%. Thailand comfortably picking off these members as they trickle in. Not going to be able to make it to the health pack. There is Colorhex. Not a single kill in response as Thailand collect the set. And that's the first map over the way of Thailand.
Missed a single shatter onto just Ace, who, okay, he did ult, and you did kind of shut down the overclock, but otherwise, nothing else came through from that. A push in from Thailand, straight to the NZ spawn. Annihilation in hand. No time remaining. Snowball through. Have to be a little bit concerned for New Zealand. Super scrappy. I mean, even you just look at the very first fight. New Zealand completely out of position with the rest of their team. It was a super strange push on top of the point itself. Completely disjointed. They recovered from that, and if it wasn't for a couple of clutch fights, New Zealand, I think, would have lost more fights than that.
This time just rolling out on a Ramatra of their own. Colorhex over to the Reaper. Opening fight. Oh, August. Early death there. JCap isolated as well. In trouble. Looking to go down. They do find Pale, but that is not going to be enough to turn things back around unless they're somehow able to catch a kill onto the likes of Ace. Colorhex is going for it, but they're kind of getting routed by Calburn. Calburn, though, flips the switch there. Colorhex. Man, it's a real back and forth. Colorhex barely surviving. Calburn as well, barely surviving. That actually means no one's quite run away with the early fight. Thailand get the first movement onto the point, but you can see some isolated members, and New Zealand have regrouped. So, captured Thailand, but the next fight about to begin, and Calburn is already low. Might go down here. High Vision under pressure as well. Certainly they're forced off the point. New Zealand get the cap, but they lose Finn in the process. Still a little bit on a knife's edge as Afudo goes down. Ace as well to follow. August collecting another for himself, and that's going to be the one that starts to seal it. Still a very scrappy brawl. Thailand still actually control the point. They're ticking up percentage, but New Zealand had the members now collecting the extra kills to confirm the fight, and they will be able to finally get the point under their control.
Thailand had the play advantage there, but Calburn was super low. They never really recovered that HP quickly enough. Ace tried his best. High Vision didn't have the Blizzard for that fight. It only gets it as he dies. So a good turnaround from New Zealand. It's been scrappy, but they'll get it back. It's a lot of the problems for New Zealand is those first deaths, consistently one player down, having to play 4 versus 5 on an ideal situation. Thailand looking good on also, but are they really going to cross this bridge? They'll be crossing it straight into Coalescence.
They go for it.
Oh, there's a boop as well.
Manual hack onto Calburn, but receives a nano boost. So first death is actually Ace, as you noted, with that boop off the edge. The sound wave, it's actually called. Speaking of sound, the barrier to come out now, but not in time to save High Vision, whose Blizzard did not get what they needed. Calburn committing an ultimate while they're 2 members down. They really wanted JCap back. They do find him. The sound barrier wasn't quite there in time from Finn. Has it now. It's been an EMP. Colorhex looking to follow it up with an F Blossom. They find the one that they needed. Another sound wave from Finn to collect Ace. Really having to dig deep there, New Zealand, and go big on the ultimates, but it does pay off.
Yeah, it's going to have to cost them 2 extra ultimates, though. Both DPS ultimates in play. So you talk about Calburn kind of throwing in the Annihilation to try and clutch it through. We'll get a positive ult trade off the back of that one in terms of just that isolated 1 versus 2 ult trade. Now the movement around the backside into White Room, and that's recommended. I mean, I was questioning them coming through main over the bridge. Without a doubt, Finn got a boop kill. Ace looking for overclock.
Ace is trying to go for it. That forces the sound barrier from Finn. JCap coming in with the annihilation. That's a really quick collection there. Calvin manually hacked will go down. That's a 1 for 2, so you're all right with the trade for Thailand, but we're running the bet at 90%. They're going to have to really dive in for this final fight.
Let's take a look at it. 90%. August on Cole.
Tall order.
And lagging behind. A much better round for New Zealand so far. Good ground. Thailand need to start moving.
My eye
to touch, I think.
My eye is on Calburn. Closer to the annihilation than JCap is, but Pally already low. Goes down, no coalescence, and that's it. August has his. Colourhex may die, but I think that is all she wrote. The writing on the wall for it. New Zealand looking to collect this one up. Hasn't quite confirmed it yet. Calburn low, has the annihilation, channeling it, but is going to get dusted off anyway. Pally probably not going to get back in time, throwing out the coalescence, but miles away from it, unfortunately. Overtime, Wick ticks down New Zealand. Much more confident than our 100 to 90 that Thailand picked up in the first one, but still relatively even.
Still pretty scrappy, though. Again, they needed to really recover a couple of wacky situations there, some weird situations they got caught in. 4v5 is not helping them out, but once New Zealand were in control, they actually had the point going for them. A much better turnaround, much more consistent fights. Thailand struggled to even reach the point. They weren't able to rotate towards the point comfortably at all. Now into control center, JCap going back over towards the Rhine. Didn't really work out from a 9 mark, and that's an okay Rhine map, but again, disjointed, I would describe for Team New Zealand on that first round. Just take another look at Team Thailand in what is now starting to deliver as a close series, at least on the first map.
An opening scrap now. High ground from New Zealand, back on the Rhine. Calburn taking some early pressure. JCap getting right into the thick of it. Wants to start swinging the hammer, but the barrier, nope, he's down. It's trapped in the vortex. Did not have the immortality field in time from August. It's a 2 for 1 favoring Thailand. Third one to come across, and that'll be the opening cap going the way of Thailand once again.
If there's anything that New Zealand have struggled on, it has been these neutrals, and to be fair, on night market, they still turned around and won, but again, wasn't comfortable. Now we start to see the swaps. August back over towards the Moira. It's been the preferred pick of August so far. As you sort of noted, the Lamb not coming through in time to save JCap, and JCap now moving over towards a Ram. So a little bit of a swap. That's going to cost him time. Pally is running away with ult charge so far on this map. In a defensive position to get good value as well.
And just taking their time on the push. Calburn really keeping the point on lockdown once again. Has been a thorn so far for New Zealand to get past, but when they are on top of it in the tank battle, they are absolutely tearing things up. A lot of low members. Finn's going to be the first one to go down. Pally, nice deployment of the immortality field, and there we go. Conversions coming across now from Ace. Nicely done.
Yeah. Could even argue the Matrix didn't need to come through from Pally, but will just be put in there for the insurance policy. All the health bars of New Zealand fairly low, half HP for the entire backline, and Finn down early, so New Zealand certainly lack the firepower there. They'll be at least able to take away the consolation prize of getting one extra ultimate out of Thailand. That will help a little bit. August is slowly trying to catch up here. You are on a Moira, so expecting fast ult charge on the Cole. That to be something to be useful. JCap far behind, unfortunately.
It's going to be the Blizzard out. They've isolated Calburn, but can they kill him? No. With the immortality field in play, they're not able to collect on anything. Coalescence out now from August. A little bit low, as is Finn. Still struggling to collect the kills. The overclock now high vision with his own Blizzard. New Zealand, August is caught in the Blizzard. They haven't noticed that he's caught in the Blizzard, though. So it's JCap and Pally that go down. Ace, Par, really even Stevens. But Thailand forcing New Zealand miles away from the fight. Sound barrier from the beautifully done. Finn as well. They have to. It's final fight. Looking to get a freeze. Colourhex and high vision head to head there, and we're still only just getting back to the point now. Colourhex finally going down. Finn low, in trouble. August also in trouble. JCap is back, has that annihilation, trying to get the damage, trying to find something, rescue the fight maybe, goes down but finds the point cap. But Thailand have more members. They collect Par as well, and I think that's going to seal it here. Thailand will be able to recap unless Colourhex comes in with some kind of hero play, but those days feel a little bit long gone by now. 100 to 10 to be the final result here for Thailand.
What a play coming through at the back end. Thailand, they made the call to try and clutch it through. 3 versus 3. Apudo pops to the sound barrier. And I said they really wanted to fight for it, and Thailand had the option of backing out. They didn't have to play for that final engagement. They could have accepted the losses, said, we'll go for the respawns here, we'll reset, allow the cap to come through from New Zealand and just play through the remainder of the 99. But they went for the 3v3. goes into an extended fight, comes into a pally window that burns through JCap, completely annihilates him down. And Thailand take away map 1.
Yes, and that means it will be New Zealand getting to do the map pick as we go into the second map. Well done to Thailand on that one. It was obviously some very quick fights, as you had mentioned throughout those those fights there. Avril, you mentioned they were quite fast. Both teams, very quick turnarounds and very quick picks and trades there from both sides.
Yeah, I mean, especially on Night Market round 1, I think things started to slow down a little bit more towards the end, but Night Market was a lot of back and forth, and it was the kind of back and forth where the team that lost the previous fight would retake instantly and then be able to win the subsequent fight. But I think there were a few issues on the New Zealand side in terms of the instability around the Rhine composition and losing a lot of early picks on the neutral trades as well, especially when you look at Gardens. But they won that round, couldn't quite pull through and control center.
Well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with map 2 of Thailand versus New Zealand. See you all soon.
You asked, we listened. The McFeast is back in all its beefy, salady, saucy glory. Value means more at Macca's, so grab a McFeast lunch deal now for only $5.95.
Welcome back, everyone. And if you have been watching, you'll know that Thailand has taken the first map against New Zealand, which was Lijiang Tower. So New Zealand will get to choose the second map here, and hopefully they'll pick something that will favor their team compositions. We have just been seeing a lot of Reinhardt being played, which I'm sure, Avril, you maybe have some comments about JCap picking the Reinhardt over Ramarko here.
I've actually got some comments. He's not going to be playing it anymore because then I just walked down the road and knocked on his door and I said, don't play the Reinhardt again. Yeah,
it definitely
collusion
seems
with teams.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's frowned upon heavily.
Unabashed bias. I was very clear about my stance at the top of the show. I'm not going back on my word now.
I think it's only viable on Lijiang anyway, and so beyond that, it's not really a hero pick that you would be able to really see on other maps. But also, I just don't think New Zealand look very well practiced on the Rhine Cop in general. You could even see from the fact that we went to control center and JCap gave up on it pretty quickly and ended up unfortunately being behind an ult charge. At least August caught up because we are playing Moira, and that's what Moira gameplay looks like. Control center was a lot more concerning, I think, from the New Zealand POV.
Yeah, no, definitely. I completely agree with you. We did see JCap make that switch. It did put their team a little bit behind, and I think that may have caused them that match, unfortunately. They did definitely put up good fights. There was a lot of really good trades there, but having that Reinhardt gameplay really just didn't help them out, and so hopefully JCap will make the switch, and we'll see what they're going to pick for map 2. I think we're still waiting on their decision.
Great cosplay from Ace. Great cosplay from Ace here, I just wanted to say.
The beautiful Widowmaker.
You talk about the JCap switch, by the way, and forget about switching heroes. They're actually just going to switch players. ODP is going to come in for JCap now for map number 2. And ODP has a more main tank focused hero pool outside of the off tank. So that means we're definitely not going to anything like Circuit Royale. We're going to be potentially moving into a dive map, play a little bit of Winston. That would be my assumption. Otherwise, if we're just going to play Ram or maybe Queen or something else, you would have kept JCap in. Both ODP in particular, I think he was missing from the last season of Contenders, so he's had a bit of time off. Haven't seen him for a while. And
I have. I see him around all the time.
Yeah, just on the next street over,
supermarket, right? Yeah.
What can you tell me about him?
Handsome. Very handsome. Yeah.
Okay.
And generous. Loyal.
Alrighty,
what more do you want to
know? Let's take a look at the map that New Zealand has chosen, and they have picked Numbani, a map that a dive map, yeah, good dive map, a lot of high grounds. What do we expect to see here? Like, I always like to think there might be some Diva plays here, but I'm not sure if Diva's really the right choice. I just like the Divas up on the high grounds.
Diva's good here, but you've swapped over to ODP, which means we're playing Winston. I don't know what Calvin's going to bring to the table here. Probably a Winston as well, given that actually, I don't know what his exact hero pool looks like.
I do believe they have Rod Tongue as a sub, and he has the Winston in his repertoire.
That's true, and I don't believe we have a substitution, so they're going to keep Calvin in, which means if Calvin is more leaning towards the off-tank side, it's going to be potentially a Diva here, which I also think is pretty strong in the dives, but I think Numbani should be a pretty good dive map. We have not seen Numbani this entire year in Overwatch. In fact, we didn't see it last year either. This will be the World Cup, generally speaking. World Cup, generally speaking, would be the first time we're seeing Numbani in Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised Numbani has been picked. It's a nice surprise because, as you said, we haven't seen it a lot. And I think it'd be nice to see some dive comps being played because obviously we see a lot of Ramacho, we see a lot of those rush comps. So I think this will be fun to see a little bit of a different mix-up here from the teams. Yeah.
Numbani A, famously defensive-sided. Numbani as a map hasn't really changed.
We're going to get the fourth map.
The map is... Hey?
Get a draw, and then New Zealand wins map 3, and then we go to map 4. Thoughts?
I mean, they could just win map 2 and 3, and you don't have to go to map 4. They could just win 2-1.
I'm not going to stop them if that's what they want to do, but I'm just saying, 4 maps, bang for your buck.
Well, they definitely do need to win this one, obviously, so that they can stay in the game, because if Thailand wins this, then, you know, Thailand's got that one on the map.
Or they could draw.
Well, yes, that's true.
There's 2 viable outcomes here. The majority of outcomes here are actually favorable for New Zealand. There's only one situation in which it's bad, and that's if they just lose to Thailand outright. But that's not going to happen.
No, they've got this. And,
exactly.
All right, and so look, we're going to head into Numbani now, and I'm just going to double check. I think, oh no, that's all good. We're heading on over. Take it away, guys.
I'm really hungry, and now I don't know what I'm supposed to get for dinner. Unbelievable.
Some more of the water you've really been enjoying.
I've been honing that water.
Yeah.
It's that high quality New Zealand spring water. Fresh off the glaciers, mate.
And there you go. There's one addition to the map. That little Jeep. That wasn't there before. So in terms of map changes, still the same time of day.
They still have the legendary organic oil.
Always sunny in Numbani.
That would be interesting, having a rainy map.
Yeah, the comps. What's that?
Having like a rainy map.
There it is. It's Blizzard World that's currently raining.
Oh.
There you go. The more you know.
The more I know.
The more you know. Now you know. You're aware.
I got a question for you. I got a trivia question, an Overwatch trivia question, because they've still got the signs up here about Effie, who of course designed Orisa. Do you remember what her last name is?
I could just Google it, but I'm just going to be honest and say I don't know. I forgot.
If I'm recalling it correctly, it's Oladele.
Okay.
And if I remember that wrong, that's a real bad look for me.
I'm not even going to check. I'll just believe you.
Sick, love that.
on the Echo. As I don't even remember, we really ever, even in the DPS days of Kalex, I don't really remember him playing too much of this hero, but here it comes out in any case. Ash on the defense, double poke.
First dive, directly on top of Pally.
So.
That's a big anti-heal and costs him his entire life. What does ODP stand for?
Overdosed pirate. I actually should have made you guess. What if I guess? What if that's a guess?
My guess was going to be old dirty pasta.
Okay, that's I'd prefer you didn't say that, but let's think about what this New Zealand team will do now for his second attack. Attempt, and we'll take X down.
What a sniper. It gives Colorhex a lot of free reign here, actually. Obviously, they want to deal with high vision, but currently doing that, August is just soloing these DPSs, really putting the trousers on for the team. And Thailand now
Sleeping Calvin.
Yeah, forced way off the point. Calvin can't quite get back onto it because of that well-timed sleep. That's going to be New Zealand getting the cap. No draws.
Could have
actually no.
Could have otherwise have been a pretty good retake opportunity, but no. No ultimates online at the moment. So we're about to head into, I believe it was like, what, the third fight? Pa's nearly onto the pulse bomb. Still waiting for high vision to get this value on the Ash that we expect. A little bit of damage with the color hex. Trying to hunt to the back line, but still missing 9%.
Just wants that last little bit. Ooh, Apudo in trouble, gets bumped away. Pa down to high vision, but they found Ace, so that's a reasonable trade. Now, Colorhex duplicating the Diva head-to-head there. Sleep onto Calvin. He's got the nano boost on him, but he's just coming up against Colorhex, who's keeping him entirely occupied. Not getting much mileage out of that. Not getting too much mileage out of the ultimate there either, Colorhex. And by ultimate there, I'm meaning the Echo ultimate, not the Diva ultimate, because he didn't get one. New Zealand, though, continuing to push.
Thailand yet to slow this down, still waiting for Ace and high vision to get these ultimates.
Ooh.
Great pick on the ODP, that'll be the start you need. New Zealand now likely have to back out.
Colorhex.
No frontal pressure, Colorhex overstaying.
Yeah, not in a particular hurry to get out.
Backed out, but yeah.
Yeah, Finn nearly down on the retreat as well, but they will get away safely with the rest of these members. A lot of ultimates banked up now for Thailand. This is going to be a tough ask for New Zealand to push into.
They're holding forward as well because they can at this point. They have a lot to play through. You should have to be a little bit concerned about power back capping, but Rage is really the only thing to look forward to for New Zealand, and for Thailand, you can afford to just be patient for now. Waste a bit of time.
You've got the clean air and beautiful environment to look forward to for New Zealand, but that's separate. ODP going ahead and popping the Primal Rage, getting very aggressive. Ace having to duplicate the Winston. Immediately slept, immediately damaged down. Not going to get a Primal Rage of his own. That's a reasonable start for New Zealand, but Thailand, rest of the ultimates, they can dig deep on. The rally running for New Zealand, but it's the Bob first for high vision. Has now expired, if I'm not mistaken. Paley going to go ahead, throw out the nano boost. Not sure who that ended up on. It's not a Pudo of all people. They found ODP, so that's the first kill finally. Another one coming through on a Finn, but big usage of ultimates there for Thailand. They do stop New Zealand, but they had to dig very deep.
I'd like to have seen them maybe hold the nano there, but keeping Apudo alive. I don't even think Apudo was maybe that under danger, at least not from my perspective. Possibly New Zealand actually managed to get on top of Apudo. Dealt with ODP pretty quickly, so that was gone. Big threats. Now we've cycled back over towards Nano. Into Kalix on the duplicate as well.
ODP a little
Hands up
low.
one. You're going to have to down ODP here. He's too low.
No, goes and puts it on Colorhex, who does get the conversion onto Ace. They just trusted that ODP could survive the solo pressure there on from Calvin. Big sleep on to Colorhex. Forced way back. They're still trying to pressure forward.
It's a good double nade on the back line.
No extra kills. Calvin a little low here though. Might be able to pull a D-Mech off. Par fishing for something with the pulse bomb. Scrap around this point. This is an important minute for Thailand here. Colorhex going to go ahead and duplicate a Diva once again. We'll see if he gets a self-destruct this time around. Self-destruct first going to come out from Calvin. Finds August. Big beat there, unfortunately. Colorhex will have a self-destruct. Fishing for something with it, but they've already lost Finn. Not going to be the big conversion they needed. They find high vision, but they need a lot more than just that. Calvin still keeping this point on lockdown, fighting against D-Megs, but they found ODP beforehand, and New Zealand getting repelled.
4v3 at this stage as well, still nano into play. Thailand can hold on to that one and they'll hold the final 4.5 rough meters here. And I think they actually probably gave away too much meterage to New Zealand. You see actually Thailand backing out in the middle of that fight, giving space away to New Zealand, looking for better ground to hold, finding ultimates. Pulse bomb was a bit wide there.
Ace, a little low, but otherwise fine. Apudo with the rally, Finn also with the rally, and Nano Boost again onto Apudo. I mean, at that point, that almost seems intentional.
Oh, it's ODP
Works
just
out, they
melts.
found ODP, yeah. Not going to be able to get the cap here. Olga's down as well. A little bit closer, but no tobacco product. 1 minute 15 on the clock for New Zealand, losing par as well.
ODP probably he overestimated how much ult charge he was going to get because he dies at
Yeah.
about 97%. And if he stays alive for maybe another 2 seconds, we're looking forward to the potential of the Primal Rage to extend that life, and New Zealand would be in a really good spot. But he probably just did not expect how quickly he was going to take him down. That was 100-0. A snap of a finger, the payload, tiny bit of movement, back to 4.5 meters and slightly further back beyond that. But the timing is really rough now. Less than a minute to go. New Zealand going to have to spend basically all the ultimates. They've started to bang Cup. I think all three are going to get spent here.
Par. Whew. Nearly one shot too many. Gets topped off. Fishing for something with the pulse bomb. Wanted to fight Apudo. Doesn't quite run it into him. ODP has the nano boost at his back. Getting aggressive on top of high vision. Not converting any kills there. Still has himself a primal rage. Pulse bomb. Finn low. Collex
He needs
low.
to go.
He's got to
He's
die.
waiting too
Yeah,
long.
he's in now. Still hasn't popped the primal. What's the point? Really waiting until he himself is low, but he's immediately slept. Finn is down. They don't have that extra support of their back. Color Hex with the duplicate. Nope. August down on the backside there. They are struggling here, New Zealand. Finally collecting some kills onto high vision and Apudo. It felt like there was a real lack of
3v3.
gumption there on the New Zealand side. Not willing to get aggressive and go in, force the fight. 2 reserved, 2 held back with those ultimates. They're constantly fighting on the back foot, and they're losing on the back foot as well. Gonna get held here unless Color Hex pulls off a miracle. Finds Calvin. That's the start of a miracle. Manual hack. He's still alive. Has the supports in his back. Ace finds power though, so still very little support,
God,
but he's still
Color
alive.
Hex.
Finds high vision. August trying to come in, help him out a little bit. They find Ace as well. Color Hex, I've missed you dearly in DPS, but my God, my guy has still got the stuff.
Yeah, he survived everything there. Got a little bit of pocketing as well. Got hacked in the middle of that fight. Find something like 3 to 4 kills. We have to go for a swap now. What's going to choose? May, they're going to go towards a brawl composition. Lucio, Moira into the Ram Reaper, May as well. And Thailand, where's the response? Lucio for Apudo after Pally uses this nano. I'm looking forward to the potential of Moira maybe about to come through as well. Thailand will also do swap compositions, but Thailand, they probably thought they had won that fight, and maybe I think we thought that fight was lost for New Zealand as well, but Color Hex clutches through.
Pulled that one out of nowhere. Pally pops the nano boost onto Calvin, who's getting aggressive, but also surrounded. They found par though. August still not popping a coalescence, and Finn goes down. They're playing so close to the chest once again, and I'm not sure I understand it, but with all these members down, they get the DMAC on Calvin, but it's just too little too late. August is dead. ODP is dead. Color X goes down. Absolute tunnel vision. 30 seconds left on the clock. All they've got right now is that coalescence, and then a sound barrier soon thereafter.
Well, they got the player they were looking for, but they lose too many of the backside for it, unfortunately, as New Zealand will now, as you mentioned, down to the final moments, and it was a miracle for them to even get this far in the first place. You can perhaps argue that all of this distance is bonus.
Yep.
A coalescence to guide them through to the finish line if they, well, not quite to the finish line, but as far as they can go.
One pulse bomb could
Maybe
shut it down, but it doesn't matter. August is already down and out for the Cal. Pulse bomb does go wide, but the damage is long since done. Calvin brought super low. Again, it feels like there's a tunnel vision on him. They find Pally. They're going to hide away from that self-destruct. They don't prevent the remech, and you've still got Ace running interference on the backline. Color Hex now down par as well, and yeah, that's going to be the maximum distance here for New Zealand, unless again someone else pulls out a miracle. August and ODP with the double ultimates. Calvin's low, going to get demexed here. Ace is in trouble. Oh my goodness gracious, they're doing it again. Pulling one back from the brink. This time it's not Color Hex, it's August and ODP. Speaking of Color Hex, about to come back in with a Blizzard. How long indeed?
Because they still have to win subsequent fights here. They're getting more distance, and this is good. This is minimum that they need. They can turn this into a winnable situation later on the defensive side, but for now, they have to win another fight. High vision in the skies. This is a risk. He's got to go for it.
On the Farad, nearly got shot out of the sky. Nano boost onto Calvin, but the Blizzard is there as well. Gonna freeze him up. No, he's able to skirt around the edge of it, and ODP gets picked off in the middle of things. Pa has a Death Blossom. They need to find a lot with it. Needs to maybe find High Vision. That's the ideal target. Now they find Pally, and they're gonna pull it back from the brink. I never doubted you for a second. Go, you beauties.
Wow, what a cap. It feels like the entire last 2 to 3 minutes, probably closer to 2, was just clutch after clutch after clutch for Team New Zealand. I think 3 fights there that it didn't really feel winnable for them. They come on through. Even that final engagement. Puda had the sound barrier, was coming online, a couple percentage points off. Pa doesn't land the Death Blossom and taking down the backline. Very different story. Thailand still in a very likely position to hold. They have the respawn advantage. Time is on their side. Map geometry, payload positioning, also on the side of Thailand, and they were in position to hold, and they could not. New Zealand, gigantic clutch there, get that cap. That was a lot more than what you would expect given how rough B went. They looked like they should have been held on B.
Yeah, that was by the seat of for New Zealand, and now on the defense. One thing I will say is they capped point A with a reasonable amount of time, and that paid off for them when you look at how long B took them. If they can hold out A for that bit longer, play the clock, run it out, maybe get a full A hold somewhere on B, they do have what they need to turn this into a winnable map, New Zealand.
Well, they can definitely get a lot done on A. Again, I still think it's very defensive favored here. Not that Thailand did too much to back that claim up. Let's see what New Zealand can do more on the defense. They're playing a heavier diversion than what Thailand had. Remember, Thailand had high vision on the Ashe for the longest time. There's eventually a swap off, and now on the attacking side, it's going to be Kariko Anna, so lacking the Brig this time around. And it's not as consistent healing for Ace on the Echo here. This is part of the reason why you would run the Brig, among other reasons.
And to heal on Color Hex, has to be a little bit careful. Gives a bit of aerial supremacy over to Ace, and you see that in that differential on the ultimates as well. There's ODP taking some heat for the team. Calvin trying to pressure forward around this corner. They're taking this time, setting up the dive.
Well, first 40-ish seconds gone now. And still trying to slowly make their way up main. That would have been some decent stickies from Ace if it connected.
Color Hex, oh, Ace still finds it. He's already looking good on the ultimate charge, and I think they were just waiting for the for that at this point, but unnecessary. They've already found a kill, now diving on to Finn. August is the one taking the majority of the heat, finds one, looking to find the next. Big dive back, though, onto Ace, who had the ultimate charged up already, was just about to go down. Now the shoe's on the other foot. ODP is in trouble, fighting against a duplicated Winston. Back and way away. Color Hex slow. The dive continues. They're fighting miles from the point while it's busy getting caps. Funny sleep there on Ace, but the fight isn't where it needs to be anyway. New Zealand's just forced off.
Well, they'll try and get Ace down and maybe recontest at the same time, but recontest is certainly there. Ace gets away. Who's actually on the payload? Somebody's. It was just Pa, and with Pa down, funny enough, it was actually Ace that got the kill. So somehow Ace managed to get his way back towards the team. Would have gone around the backside, I think, towards Coast. Flying around the back. Gets Pa, and eventually the cap will come on through.
A lot of time on the board here for Thailand as well. New Zealand can have to work hard on this defense, and we're seeing them look a little bit out of sorts. I was saying on their attacking half, they lacked a little bit of priority. They weren't really leading the charge. I'll have to see if they can maybe tie that up on the defense, but no, Finn gets dove onto. Nano boost onto ODP. They still want to fight it out. Nano boost onto Ace as well. That's at least a trade back there. ODP has himself a primal rage, but High Vision pretty on the cart right now. Nobody really challenging him. Just bullying Par in this corridor while the rest of the team gets cleaned off on the front line thanks to Calvin, who is such a hard taunt right now for New Zealand.
An eventual death onto Par there as well. You have to run out of blinks eventually, and there it is. Payload will now start moving along a decent amount of time. I mean, you remember New Zealand struggled to make the payload really get to any sort of distance on B at all. It's where they lost all their time. Thailand, so where currently they have the advantage. New Zealand will obviously have a retake opportunity here, but Dragon Strike and Kitsuna Rush, straight line over the cap.
They got to really make the most of it. ODP low has to primal, getting aggressive. Ace goes for the duplicate. Finds himself a Winston of his own, so it's going to be double primals here. Unless they can get Ace out of this, might be able to. He's low, gets healed up now. ODP's primal has run out. High Vision is low. That's a good start. And they've got Ace out of the duplicate, found him out of the sky as well. Very important defense coming through for New Zealand. Finally getting a cleaner, more proactive fight.
Yeah, ODP disrupted the Kitsuna Rush. You can see as soon as Kitsuna Rush comes down, ODP primals at the back line.
Calvin's dead.
Now it's going to be a stagger onto Calvin, and Finn, by the way, completely outplayed Ace there. Both of the jump attempts from Ace locked out, whip shot away by Finn. That's part of the reason why you didn't see that primal rage coming on through, and Ace got nothing done in the duplicate. As well as then, as we already mentioned, the Kitsuna Rush from Apuro got disrupted by the primal rage from ODP.
Sneaky pulse bomb from Par doesn't quite find its mark. And now Ace a little bit low. Thailand having to take their time here. But time they certainly have. It's a long defense here for New Zealand if they want to have a full B hold. Ooh.
Start there with a Nano onto Color Hex.
Again, proactivity. I like it.
To match.
Nano, yeah, as you said, onto Calburn. So, oh, Color Hex drilled down. Not even a chance to duplicate. Ace all over him. Not getting much damage done with that Nano boost either. August now in trouble. Not getting any counter trades. Pop in the rally here as Finn as Par finds Ace. So they've got an opportunity to fight through here. Color Hex will be able to rejoin this fight. Self-destruct from Calvin. Just trying to force everyone off the cart. Maybe come back in, squeak the cap through. But nope, there's bodies there already for New Zealand, ready to defend. Now, looking for the kills. Color Hex back in the mix, as are all of the members of Team Thailand anyway. So it's a full 5v5. Primal Rage once again used aggressively. ODP very far forward. Might have to be careful of this Hanzo. Both duplicates available.
Couldn't get the kill. High Vision was low there, but ODP is just jumping around a couple of different targets. Par taking down the side. That's the 5 versus 4. Double duplicates to be used here. This time Color Hex needs to be proactive. It is.
Ace ends up duplicating a brig. Second rally is nice, but nope. Forced out of it immediately. That being said, Color Hex getting nothing but nothing done, and now going to go down as well. And there ended the point B defense for New Zealand. As soon as that pick came through, and it was an unforced error, Par was fishing for a pulse bomb and just sat around too long.
Well, I mean, you have to play on the sidelines and you have to go for the flanks, but got caught. That's all it is. Thailand now coming through with double the amount of time. They did lose a lot. Thailand lost a lot of time onto B, but not enough, I think, to really threaten them just yet. It's 3 minutes to the 130 that New Zealand had, pushing C. The finish line remains the same. Thailand coming through with a couple of ults. Color Hex saved by the Nano.
Yeah, they ended up wanting to commit that instead of just healing the slow way, but they make hay while the sun's shining. They find High Vision nice and quick, smart. Sleep on the Calvin keeps him out of the mix for a hot second. Ace now, Nano boosted. ODP low, all these low members on New Zealand, and you got to start getting nervous about that kill board. Finn goes down, ODP still alive, but ineffectual in the fight while he's at low. Color Hex trying to make a hero play happen. Ace is totally and utterly unchallenged as Thailand continue the push. 2 minutes here, and it's a dire defense for New Zealand.
Par is still missing at the moment. He's trying to buy a little bit of time away, pulling Thailand members off, but the payload's at the end. This is the final defense. New Zealand trying to come through. By the way, you have to try and make sure Thailand has less than a minute. Otherwise, we're looking at a draw-only scenario.
And they got nothing but a rally here. Finn's already down. Yeah, Calvin, the self-destruct, creating some space. Color Hex already dead as well. No duplicate, no ultimates to play through. New Zealand struggling to get any pressure down. And yeah, we're going to be in a draw-only scenario for New Zealand. 1 minute 30 on the clock as Thailand look to complete the cap.
And you might be the only person in the world that wanted to see a draw because you're sadistic, but that draw might be on our hands now. It's a possibility of it. That 130 bonus time, by the way, that's all they need, because if you look at what we had at the end of the clock there, roughly about 130 there for Thailand. What was the difference? The 130 extra that Thailand had going into C.
Yep. And, well, I mean, at this point, I want to see a draw because it's the only way New Zealand keep their hopes alive here. If that point A gets capped, that's it, 2-0. They're done. They start off with that L, and we talked about how difficult that's going to be to overcome with how tight this group is actually looking. So this is a real do-or-die moment more than ever before, and it feels like New Zealand are a little bit lost right now.
Well, I mean, they're playing Thailand close. It's a competitive series, but you'd have to say New Zealand had to play through more clutch moments where an individual or a couple of players had to pull out something real special, claim and clutch a miracle. Thailand, it's been a lot more of tight gameplay, a little bit more seasoned, and I think it speaks to the fact that, again, it's predominantly made up of players from Kraken Esports who just won Contenders APAC, and yeah, they're players that are currently, after winning Contenders, at the top of the game and beyond World Cup, they'll also be playing in the Al Open as well. So,
yeah,
Thailand fairly stacked coming into this event. New Zealand playing them close, but Thailand has the edge. Can Thailand edge out New Zealand a little bit more in just 128 to get a single tick? It's not guaranteed.
Certainly not. And the clutch potential has been there for New Zealand. This is where you need to see that clutch factor come through for them. ODP aggressive. That's a nice anti-nade, but only a slowdown. That being said, 30 seconds off the clock. That's a third of the time gone.
Yeah. 3 slowdowns like that and you've got it. So
Par's down.
Oh, Par going down though.
That's brutal. Calburn is anti-heal, but ODP is so low. They don't have any forward pressure. Remember, 1 tick. They can't back off too far here. Had to come in for a recontest, and Color X is dead again. How often do I find myself saying that? ODP just has to go for it. No choice but to touch. And there it is. Thailand absolutely steamed through, and they just look so much cleaner on the attacking half, clowning on those New Zealand DPSs, who I will be having
New
words
Zealand
with.
will unfortunately not be able to get any maps here. They won a single round on Lijiang Tower. Color Hex had some good individual moments that we can see here. And our play of the game, and that'll be the silver lining as the journey into top 3 gets that much more difficult for Team New Zealand. As we said, you know, there's a strong possibility that maybe it ends up being a 3-horse race between Thailand, New Zealand, and Australia. And of that, only 2 teams can actually make it through. The final game of the week, I think New Zealand versus Australia, could actually be the decider if New Zealand, you know, given that they've lost versus Thailand now, it will look more difficult.
I don't want to think about that.
Yeah. Thailand definitely showed that they're a really strong competitor here in this group today. Like that was some very, very well played by them. However, I would like to point out that New Zealand really showed that they could work well under pressure. There were so many moments where they just absolutely clutched it up when it was like down to the wire. It was literally the last couple of overtime seconds, and we had ODP and Color Hex really just making some really clutch plays there. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for them though, and Thailand did just seem to perform a bit more cohesively as a team against them today.
Well, you can't rely on pure clutch factor
Exactly.
when you a consistent
Definitely
amount of
not.
maps. You'll get a fight or 2. In this case, they got like 3 fights.
Yeah.
That were all seemingly fairly clutch, but can you win an entire map off the back of that one? And you see the difference where Thailand can actually, despite still I think struggling on B, play through the extra 130, and that extra 130 is exactly the difference at the end of the day, given that they finished with 128 left.
The other thing I will say about that clutch factor, yeah, look, it's good to have it and it's really impressive, but you want to be using it because both teams are playing well and you have an X factor over the other team, not because you're playing worse than the other team and are having to recover in clutch moments. And that's what kept happening to New Zealand. It's just not enough gas in the tank.
Yeah, no, you make some really good points. And look, hopefully New Zealand will walk away, take some learnings from this, and will come back stronger for their next match to still be a potential qualifier to make it through.
I'm impressed with Thailand, though. I think they, you know, I had a feeling, I had an inkling that this could be a really good team. And it comes through that they really proved it, at least in our first game. And I think New Zealand will still be a strong competitor in the rest of this round robin. Like, I would expect them to come through with a decent amount of wins. But again, the cutoff point is pretty sharp. You have to be top 2 out of 6. And, you know, with, I think, potentially 4 good teams, minimum 3 really good teams, and well, 1 clear favorite in Australia, the cutoff is pretty severe.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, let's have a chat with Aputo, who is joining us now from the Thailand team. Thank you so much for joining us, Aputo. How are you feeling after that win?
Feeling good, but in the first map, I'm pretty nervous. Like, a lot of shaking.
Yeah, well done. You guys got a first win on the board. That's really well done. Congratulations. Avril, Pixie, yeah.
Yeah, sure. That was a pretty clean 2-0. Who are you looking forward to as the strong competition in this bracket? Because I would say your team is probably one of the favorites. You have to get top 2 to make it through the group stage. What's the difficulty of the bracket looking like for your team?
Communication. Sometimes we didn't like calmly in team fight. So if we can keep calm in a match, I think that's good for us. But it's pretty hard sometimes. Yeah.
And actually, Aputo, I had a question, speaking of communication, about that. Obviously, you bring a lot of seniority to this team. You're a real veteran player at this point. How is the shot calling being handled? Are you handling a lot of the shot calling with that experience you have, or what's the internal dynamic like there?
Only count ultimate and counter the core sometime. Yeah. But most of the time, I let DPS and tank line call the team fight. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
like
thank you so much for your time. Like we will ask one more quick question. Your next matchup will actually be tomorrow against Australia. How are you and the team feeling about going up against them?
Ooh, I think they are the tough one in this group. I think we're ready to fight them, but I'm not 100% that we are better than them. I feel like they are better than us right now. Yeah.
Well, I for one think you're ready to fight them. I think if you're going to beat my country, you need to beat my country's rivals as well. That's only fair. Give them hell.
Well, look, I think it's going to be a fantastic match. You guys showed us that clearly Thailand can bring it to the stage. And so I think you guys versus Australia is going to be a fantastic match to watch. So we really look forward to it. And thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us after your match today.
Thank you.
All right, and you heard it there from Aputo. They are working on their communication. Good wise words there. You know, team communication is always important. Let's take a look at that leaderboard from today and to see how we have ended up. And as you can see, we have Malaysia and Thailand both with wins on the board. Singapore and New Zealand, unfortunately, both with losses. What a strong start to the Overwatch World Cup for Group B. Wouldn't you say, guys?
Yeah, for sure. And finally getting to see Australia tomorrow will be really interesting as well, especially in that their first game is going to be tough. Like they don't get to come into their first day with any sort of softballs at all. To be fair, New Zealand had to face Thailand, so we're getting all three of what I predict to be our top teams kind of all facing off in the top in the first 2 days.
Yeah, and I think this is a start that both Thailand and Malaysia as well should actually really be proud of. I think we're focused a lot of the Thailand situation because, you know, gunning for one of those top spots, but there's still plenty of room in here for a dark horse to come through. We highlighted India earlier, and we'll get to see them shortly as well, but Malaysia really set a precedent today, a very important one, I think. I think if they walked away with the L here, their tournament life would have been very short. Now they have a little bit of breathing room, and I'm curious to see if they can go any further.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we've got our Macca's player of the day, I believe. So let's have a look. Player of the game, sorry. Yes, player of the game. Let's take a look, and it's Fantasy here on that Ramatra, which I remember you were very impressed with their Ramatra. Wait. Oh, yes.
Sigma
Sorry, Sigma.
Play. It was a 3-man flux coming through, and the team play to come on as well to finish it up. I think strong shout out to also Color Hex's clutch. I think if there was a bit more time, there would have been the possibility to maybe swap that through, but you know that came through in our final map of the day, and so it's we'll give the consolation prize over to Color Hex on that one. But Fantasy started out the day very strong in our first game.
And I'll make a quick shout out in that particular passage of play as well. I mean, it goes to show it's a real team game, right? Fantastic play from the Sigma, but actually the Tracer taking out the Immortality field like that was really what sealed the deal there. It left players in a situation where they were expecting a defensive tool that wasn't on the table, and the Sigma got maximum value. You love to see it.
Yeah, no, I think that was a fantastic start to the Group B APAC side here, and I look forward to seeing all the other teams play. So for those wondering, we will be back live tomorrow with more Overwatch World Cup goodness from APAC Group B. And make sure you check to see what time zone it is in for you. For those here in Sydney, Australia, it will be 3 p.m. tomorrow evening. So we look forward to seeing you all then for some more amazing gameplay.